All right. What is going on, everybody? This is Randall Thornton 19, one of the co-hosts of this here Xbox 2 podcast. Welcome. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Friday. Sorry for being a little bit late. When I made the podcast, I accidentally kept it private for an hour. So I was kind of like, and then my co-host is, I don't know if you guys know this, but Jez is doing dual duty on Friday. So welcome, Jez Corden, Windows Central, on his second podcast of the day. What's going on, man?
Doing pretty good, buddy. I said to you, I didn't do the podcast today. I did it yesterday.
Well, you know what I mean.
Usually I do it. Usually we do it Fridays, but today is a company holiday. Even though I did do work anyway. Even though it's supposed to be a company holiday. But we're here. It's Friday. And I got some Kraken spiced rum. Have you ever had Kraken? Oh, you don't drink, do you?
No, I do not drink. Sorry.
Yeah. Kraken spiced rum, man. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. Yeah, it's. I'm glad it's Friday. Put it that way. How are you? How are you doing, Rand?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually doing pretty well. I finished Sandman on Netflix, which you were also looking really forward to, and I loved every single second of it. It's my favorite graphic novel, and they did a damn good job adapting it to the screen, so that was great. And I started an anime, which, if you know me, that's pretty big news, because my buddies are all into anime except for Maka. But like Gopher and Sam and Magic, they're all anime heads, although they all like different sort of things. So I started watching Vinland Saga.
I've heard about this. How are you finding it?
It's actually very interesting. I'm actually quite into it. So other than that, just playing some games. The one on screen right now, Rumbleverse, which we'll talk a little bit later. You started your own cult.
I did. So, do you want to know what my cult's called?
What's it called? Is it called the? What? Yeah. What would I'm trying to think of it? What would you call it? Just the cult of mayonnaise.
It's pretty obvious. Oh, not quite. Not enough characters.
Oh, okay.
It's called Shrimp Opticon.
Shrimp Opticon? What's that?
It's like Decepticon, but with shrimp. No, I thought it was cool, man. Rip.
Interesting. Look, how many people in chat right now are asking for Peppa Pig. Look what you started, Jez.
I told you, Peppa is the future of this channel.
No, if it's the future of this channel, there is no channel. So,
whoa,
yeah,
and with the meanness again. I shouldn't be surprised. You know, this is Rand. We're talking about the meanest cat on the playground. What? I don't know what I'm talking about.
What do you?
I don't know, but let's get this ball rolling before I say something else dumb.
Well, that's what people tune in for. They want to hear stuff that you say is dumb. I mean, that's why we all listen to Jez. So look at all little piggy icons in chat for Peppa Pig. But nope, no more Peppa Pig. No more. It's been deleted off my hard drive. So unless Jez is going to play another hour of it to capture footage, there will be no more Peppa Pig on this channel.
What is with the Peppa hate, man?
I mean,
what do you hate Peppa Pig, bro?
What is with the Peppa love? I don't get it.
It's awesome. Peppa Pig is like the greatest TV show of all time. I was listening back to when I was editing the podcast to upload it. I was listening back to our Peppa Pig discussion, and there was a lot of Peppa Pig themes in last week's episode. And I really liked my idea of reallocating 343's budget to a Peppa Pig game exclusive for Game Pass, and I think that'd be huge. That'd be a huge deal. I don't know what kind of game it'd be though. What kind of game would Peppa Pig be?
I don't know.
Let's just rebrand this to a Peppa Pig podcast, bro. Might as well at this point.
Yeah, I know, right? Shout out to everybody in chat. Pong Soul. See you there, man. Everybody, all the channel members, like Achievement, appreciate you guys being here. 9 lives. Everybody talking about Peppa Pig, and I'm sure, I just have this feeling that people just tuning in and listening to this will be like, what are they talking about? All right, I'm leaving. And, nobody hears what we have to say about Xbox firing back at PlayStation. Like, you know what? We talked about it last week, and I made a couple videos about it, and I even made a video yesterday. I'm feeling the video making vibes coming back, but I didn't expect Microsoft to respond. Period. I certainly expect them to respond the way they did. Like, they were aggressive as hell, bro. It almost felt like
it was pretty striking,
right? Like they were coming out like swinging. I don't know. It feels like there is a sense. Me and you have talked about previously that at some point during this generation, people at Xbox realized that Sony isn't all about playing Kumbaya, right? Like, that's one of the things people kind of accuse Xbox and Phil Spencer of, is like, Phil likes, Kumbaya. Like, we just all want to be friends, right? Because everybody knows each other in the industry.
Phil's a nice guy.
Phil is a very nice guy. But you know who's not a nice guy? Jim Dance Moves Ryan.
Dance moves.
Jim Dance Moves Ryan. I believe that's a term King David coined on Iron Lord's podcast.
Oh, that's brilliant. I like that.
But I remember
Dance moves Ryan.
The conversation me and you had, and I think we had on the show, that when they bought Bethesda and Xbox could finally take a look at those Sony contracts, they were quite surprised to see how ruthless Sony is with their dealings, and that I think they came to the conclusion, very sad conclusion, that PlayStation isn't out here trying to make friends. Like, PlayStation's goal was to basically kill Xbox this generation, right? We've talked about that before, correct? Right?
Yeah, that's their goal. And, looking at some of those, what do you call them, documents or whatever, with regards to the kind of tactics Sony uses, you could argue that's pretty anti-competitive, some of that stuff. Literally paying to undermine the competition, and it's pretty, it's ruthless. There's no other way of saying it. It is very interesting, but it's sort of, a lot of it kind of makes Microsoft's argument for them, right? It's like, well, if Sony's doing this, what else can we do but buy up the whole industry, So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, I guess. We'll just have to wait and see.
That I kind of felt that when I was reading those responses, that Microsoft's like, oh, you wanted to kill us? Well, fuck you then. Like, I don't know. I kind of got that vibe from all this stuff. But yeah, welcome everybody in. If you guys could do us a big favor, make sure you hit the like button and share this out on social media, because we're a little bit late. Not everybody knows we're live right now, so let the world know Xbox 2 Podcast is live. We got a great show planned, a whole bunch of topics. More games getting delayed out of 2022. A White Series Elite controller leaked on video. All the stuff regarding Xbox versus PlayStation. Like, real life console war being played out in the courts. It's kind of something that you never thought we'd see. We got Gaming Forte in the chat. My brother saying, damn, Rand, what are we going to play this year? God of War? I'm scared that might get delayed as well. Hate to say I saw Hogwarts 2 delay 2 miles away, but damn. Well, I mean, to be fair, what is it? August, and they haven't said anything about a Hogwarts release date, so it was kind of like one of those things where you're like, yeah, I bet you it's not coming out this year. Sure enough. Space Dovakin says, let's go. Best Xbox podcast in town. Love you guys. Thank you. Aaron says, with the super chat, love your kind words the other day. Hopefully you're doing well, brother. And we got a newest member of the channel, Highlander001. Appreciate you. And enjoy the emotes and everything. So
we need some new emotes. I'm gonna
probably
hit up Sean LeBrie and get some Get some new emotes on the go for all the lovely channel members.
And people are still talking
Rand's
about
channel.
Peppa Pig, calling this the Peppa 2 podcast.
We are the Peppa. Is this why you didn't want this? Is because you knew
exactly?
Because
I knew it would turn into a meme. I know exactly how people would react to this. So.
Oh man, I mean, you gotta give what the people want, bro. You gotta give what they want.
Crispy says he doesn't even own an Xbox, but he loves this podcast. It's one of the best gaming podcasts out there. See, that's incredible.
That's very kind.
Listening to this show without even owning an Xbox, whew, that's
lovely.
That's amazing.
Thank you very much.
Marco says, saddened by the Hogwarts delay, would have been a perfect game to play during Christmas time. It actually would have been, yeah. I agree with that. It would have been a very, very good like holiday title to play during Christmas, New Year's, and stuff. But unfortunately, everything seems to be getting delayed. Michael says, "Hey Rand, you don't have any Gotham City Imposters footage you can use for futures?" Gotham City Imposters.
Oh, wow. That's old school.
We're going back to the 360 there, right? That's that first-person shooter. By Monolith, right? That was by Monolith, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I can't remember who did it. I just remember that game sort of going viral even before things really went viral. That was interesting times. Like a lot of my friends were just like, "Oh man, have you heard of this game? It's like Batman versus Jokers," and I was like, "Oh yeah." But it sounded lame, but then you played it and it was actually quite entertaining. But yeah, we should maybe we need to make a system where people can vote for what footage they want on the show. I think that's the only fair way of doing it, Rand.
No, I can already see that being used to nefarious ways.
Various ways.
Yeah, definitely cannot trust the audience because every single week it'll just be new Peppa footage or something. So I'm definitely not going to do that.
I don't know. I kind of like that idea.
Sonic Chief says, Rand, would you rather have Scalebound come back or play Peppa Pig? You know what? I'd rather play Peppa Pig than Scalebound come back.
Oh wow, I did not expect that.
Was that
pretty mean?
Was that unexpected?
Yeah, the Scalebound fans in the chat are pretty sad right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, Scalebound's exactly where it needs to be, in the ground, dead and buried, not to return.
Wow, that's harsh. That's harsh.
Oh,
man.
Well.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Jazz, I'm sorry. What are you going to say? Oh, well.
Oh, well. It's my new vocal filler.
Oh, well. No, your new vocal filler is, hey, guys, I'm 99% sure that this thing is happening, but I don't know. Could be wrong.
Could be wrong.
That's your whole thing.
That's my whole thing.
Let's talk about some of the games we've been playing this week. And I want to hear more about this Cult of Lamb because you're loving it. A lot of people I've seen on social media, like Luca, Erica, a lot of people that are playing it, Slow-Mo, they're loving it. The reviews are really good. It's from Devolver Digital, and it's on every platform. And it's kind of like a mix of a action slasher roguelite mixed with management sim, where you gotta like manage your cult and pick up their poo and do cut down trees and feed them and stuff. So the first part sounds interesting because I like the way it looks. The second part about the management sim, I hate stuff like that. So I'm on the fence. I don't know. So sell me on this game, bro. Sell me on Cult of Lamb.
Well, I would say that the management sim aspect of it is pretty light, but I might be thinking that just because I'm coming in from RimWorld, which is like the most complicated sim I've ever played. So it's definitely not like what I call a hardcore sim. It's sort of like Have you ever played Moonlighter?
I have not, but I've seen footage of it.
Kind of reminded me of Moonlighter a little bit, where in Moonlighter it's like a roguelite attached to a sort of shop simulator where you manage a shop and you grow it, and then there's like a little event where you sell things during the day, and then at night you moonlight as a dungeon diver to get things for your shop. It's kind of similar gameplay loop where during the night, there's like a day and night cycle, and you go on crusades, and that's sort of like the roguelite portion, which it plays similarly to what's that game called now? Oh man, that one with all the religious imagery. I can't remember what it's called now off the top of my head. Oh god, that's really gonna bug me. But it just plays like a roguelite and stuff. Moonlighter is the obvious one that I can think of off the top of my head. And the combat feels really good. It's surprisingly quite tough. It's like typical sort of, I suppose, Diablo-y kind of action RPG sort of combat. There's definitely some sort of Zelda inspiration in there as well, especially with like some of the characters and the text-based narrative and stuff like that. And you go through these procedurally generated mini dungeons, and like at the end of the dungeon it tells you how long they take, and like the standard ones only take like maybe up to like 10 minutes max. So it's a great game to just jump in and mess around for a little bit and then jump out on a break or something. It's really great short gameplay loops. And the sim aspect is also similarly short. It's like you do like a dungeon run, and you get like new followers, you get materials and stuff like that, and you just basically pour the materials into your base. So you might like spend 5 minutes building a new temple, or building a new resource gathering hub, or building new bedrooms for your cultists, and then you perform like rituals which are hilarious, and some of them are really messed up. And you can choose the direction of your cult as well. You can choose whether you want to be like a super evil cult or a little bit less evil. Both paths are kind of evil. But right now, Rand, my cult is like a cannibal cult that gets cannibal. So I picked up the cannibal perks, which means that I can sacrifice my villagers, and I can either bury them or send them to heaven, or I can literally harvest them for their meat and then make food out of their corpses and then feed their corpses to my followers, and they gain like religious fervor, which you need to level up or whatever. And all this horrific darkness is wrapped in the cutest, most pleasant art style ever, and it's the juxtaposition is incredible and hilarious at the same time. Really reminds me of like Super Happy Tree Friends or whatever it was called back in the day, or that South Park episode with the evil woodland critters, the Christmas specials. Remember that? Oh man, it's just a tremendous game, And honestly, like if you put off by the management sim stuff, it's really light-handed with when it comes to that kind of stuff. And it even gives you tools if you really, really don't like it and you don't want to manage some of that stuff. You can literally just sacrifice everyone and not even bother with it, really. So like for example, I had like an NPC showed up in my cult, and they were telling everyone that I was bad, and that the cult is evil and everyone should leave and run away. So like there's like a multiple ways you can deal with the situation. You can either just sort of wait it out and try and convince him by talking to him. You can build a facility called a prison where you can just sort of beat the resistance out of him, or you can literally murder him. Like the ability is literally called murder, and like if you murder him in front of your followers, they'll be freaked out and be like, "Oh my god, this guy's crazy." But you can also just wait for nighttime when everyone's asleep, and then murder the guy in his sleep, and then dispose of the body. So it's like, yeah, and it's all happening with this really cutesy art style, and I'm only about an hour into the game, and I haven't unlocked any other mechanics. And like the spell book for all these kind of like mechanics and systems and features you can use, I've barely unlocked anything. And there are also like longer dungeon run modes where you can, go on a longer dungeon run than the standard sort of 5 to 10 minute runs. So there's a huge amount to this game, considering how much it costs, which isn't very much. I think it's like $25 or something like that, or $30, I think. And I'm just sort of amazed at how creative it is, and it really again slams home to me how boring AAA has become. When yeah, it's not even it's a lukewarm take, man. It's a lukewarm take. Because AAA gaming has become super boring. Everything's delayed, and there's very little creativity coming out of these mega publishers like EA and Activision and stuff. And all the creativity is coming from their indie labels, and then indie labels like Devolver Digital. So I love it. I think it's a brilliant game, and it's honestly on my game of the year list right now. Even though I've only played like an hour and a half of it, so it's a really, really cool game. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've been playing this week. Other than World of Warcraft, which you don't want to hear about. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I got a bunch of family members in my cult. You're in my cult, Rand. Yeah. In fact, I'm gonna upload. You're actually like really slow at working, which is probably like realistic to real life, I guess. But but you can name your cultist. You can name your cult as well. And customize a bunch of different stuff, and it's just great. But I didn't realize, right, when I started naming all the cult members after people I know, that these are animals, right? So they only have a lifespan of like a few years, and like a bunch of them are elderly already. And then it's like, how do you deal with your elderly cult members? You can sacrifice them, you can murder them and turn them into meat, and or sort of just and like the kind one is like ascend them to heaven or something. But so now like yeah, but at some point, Rand, I'm gonna have to like sacrifice you to my evil gods and harvest you for experience points at some point. But I didn't realize that when I'd named all the characters after people I knew. And it's all fun and games, right? Yeah, my girlfriend's in the game, and like she's the first character I named after my girlfriend. But like I found a necklace which doubles the life expectancy of the character, so I gave that to her. But like death's inevitable, and you go through like there's like 4 different biomes for the roguelike sections. Each biome has a different boss, which look amazing, really cool designs. And then there's a sort of mysterious overarching story. There's also a world map. You can go fishing. The game has fishing. Thank God. Yeah. It's got loads of characters. There's just a lot to it. It's a very, very cool game, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it. If you're hankering for something to play, you like Diablo kind of games or classic Zelda, and roguelites, and if you've ever played Moonlighter, if you ever enjoyed Moonlighter, you will absolutely love this game. It's just super, super cool. I love it. I absolutely love it. The devs absolutely knocked it out of the park. Very impressed.
Yeah, people are asking if it's in Game Pass, but I believe it is not in Game Pass.
No, it is not. It's not in Game Pass. I asked that because I met the devs a while ago. And I don't know why. I just assumed it was in Game Pass because Devolver's pretty good at supporting Game Pass, right? They did Carry On, which is another amazing Devolver game. But maybe it'll come to Game Pass eventually. But honestly, just buy it. Like it's totally worth it. If you like these kind of games, I would honestly just buy it.
You didn't hear? Xbox gamers don't buy games, Jez. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's what I heard. Man.
They don't buy games, and Game Pass is failing. But yet, Xbox is making more money than they ever have in the history of the company. But yet, nobody buys any games, and Game Pass is a failure. So, I always wonder, because I see those arguments online, that stupid people make, And it's just like, if you just think about it a little bit logically there, it's like, how could they be making all that money if nobody's buying games and Game Pass isn't a success? But clearly, I don't know. Clearly, people don't want to engage their brains to talk about that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I might check out Cult of Lamb because it does look really cool. Cult of the Lamb, and the combat seems engaging from what I've seen. I just might have the questions about the whole management thing.
Yeah, the combat's not that deep. It's not like super complicated or difficult. Like every aspect of the game is kind of like very light, I would say. And like it doesn't like ask you to think too hard about anything you're doing. But it's also like it's really engaging, and it's just it constantly throws new things to do at you, which as someone with a terrible attention span, I'm really appreciating that. So yeah, I just kind of love it. I just kind of love everything about it. Perfect. It's a perfect Jez game, I would say.
We need footage for the podcast so people can stop talking about Peppa. Jonas the Dad says, love the show. Jez and Peppa Althor 19. Cool Dude Super Noob says, Harry Potter delay, fear of God of War Ragnarok is bullshit. Very different buyer fan base. More importantly, where the heck is more Peppa Pig footage? Oh my god. It's just... Jeez. Jeez, with this whole thing. I
love it.
Highlander001 says, this is new for Sony. They are used to Phil Spencer and Microsoft being nice. Now that the gloves are off, Sony ponies are not used to Microsoft pushing back. You know what? Everybody talking about Peppa Pig in the chat, put your money where your mouth is. Somebody donates like $100 super chat, I'll put Peppa Pig on. How's that, huh? That's the only way Peppa's getting back on the channel. You put your money where your mouth is, you can have Peppa all day long if you want, for all I care.
Wow.
Aquaman says, why doesn't Xbox buy out amazing Devolver Digital? Because I don't know, what do you really get with Devolver? Because they're just an indie publisher. I don't think they actually own any of the games they publish. Same thing with like Annapurna.
They don't own a huge amount. Yeah. Microsoft really likes to own every aspect of the stuff because they often are the target of litigation. And if there's not like a very firm sort of contract in place when it comes to licensing and stuff, I know Microsoft are risk averse with regards to that. Because obviously, if they do end up getting litigated, the payouts for Microsoft could be astronomical, right? So often I see that touted as a reason, but Devolver's very amazing, man. I think Devolver might be my favorite publisher right now, quite honestly. I really like. They're just killing it, absolutely killing it. Their marketing's great. Their showcases are hilarious. Their PR and social media is just amazing too. They're just a really great company. Like, it's really cool. I don't know. And of course, they make very amazing games.
Flame says, Jez, this is very descriptive. You okay, bro? And then everybody's like, Randall mute, no Rand. Rand muted, can't hear Rand. What's going on here? Jez, why didn't you tell me about this? Nobody could hear me?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Are you playing? It's because you're playing Cult of the Lamb, isn't that? That's why you're not even looking at the chat. I don't think I was muted, was I?
Dude.
I don't think I was muted.
You weren't muted for me. Randall muted. We'll have to check that if we're gonna upload the podcast later.
But I don't think when you were talking about that game, I don't think I was really speaking very much. Dark Seaz says Rand is muted. I don't know, maybe it wasn't coming through OBS. I don't. Rand's pretending he's not muted. What do you mean I'm pretending I'm not muted? What is going on here? Welf Wiggum says Randall muted. I didn't change anything. It could just be OBS glitched out and just wasn't sending my audio. I didn't unmute anything. Siler says, where's the Scalebound footage instead? I don't know. Deleted. Maybe stored at like a Microsoft server. Yeah, Yeah, I wonder who would have the old Scalebound footage. Probably Microsoft. I'd delete it if I was them. You know what I mean?
You really don't like that game. Oh man, I just want it to come back just to, well, I was gonna say see your face, but we don't do camera podcasts here. But I'll just imagine your face. I imagine Rand's face when Scalebound is revived, because you know, who knows? Who knows what could happen?
Could you
We
imagine?
live in a world where Microsoft's buying Activision Blizzard for $70 billion. Literally anything can happen now. Literally anything.
See, Xcoin says nothing is wrong, Rand. Ignore them. Okay, that's what I'm gonna do because, like, I'd admit it if I was muted, but I don't remember unmuting and muting myself. It must have just been a mistake. I wasn't saying much about during the Jez talking about Cult of Lamb because I've been playing Rumbleverse. I think it's called Multiverses. It's funny because in the footage, I'm playing with my buddy Mr. Black Magic, and I was like, "Hey, there's a new battle royale game that's out." So you know, I had to play it, right, Jez? You know how much I love my battle royales, right?
Yeah. You're basically a Gen Z.
Yeah, and
you're literally Gen Z.
I was like, "Yo, download Rumbleverse. We can play it tonight." And he's like, "What? The game with LeBron?" I'm like, "No, that's Multiverses." He's like. He thought Rumbleverse was Multiverses. So,
well, honestly, when you said to me earlier, you had because I was like earlier, guys. I was like, Rand, are we using Peppa Pig again? And then Rand was like, nah, I got footage of Rumbleverse. I was sitting there thinking, what the hell is Rumbleverse? I've never heard of it. So what is it? What is Rumbleverse? I have no idea what it is.
Rumbleverse is a brawler fighter battle royale for up to 40 people. You can play it solo or in duos, so 2 people, and it's basically this Fortnite. The graphic and style is Fortnite. It's published by Epic, so it uses the whole Epic account stuff, and it's like a superhero brawler with kind of the fighting things, because like you have basic attacks, you have like special attacks on Y. And then you find big special abilities that are tiered, right? Like you pick up these books that you find in crates and use them on left bumper, right bumper. But there's that hierarchy of like fighting where like a strike will interrupt a vicious attack, which, will interrupt this, which will interrupt that. So you start off and you go around the world, you break some boxes, you get more health. Or you find some chicken to get your health back, and you get some weapons, and then you just go brawl against people. And surprisingly, it's a lot of fun. It's kind of confusing at first. Like when I was playing it at the beginning, I was just like, "Man, this is kind of weird." But by the end of the night, like I don't know, me and Magic were having a blast. It was a lot of fun. It's free to play, so how
does it? What's the combat comparable to?
What's the combat comparable to? Because
you said it's a fighting game, right?
It's like a brawler. It's a brawler, but with like fighting game terminology. Because certain moves, like I said, with the rock paper scissors, like if somebody's doing a vicious attack on Y, that'll interrupt somebody else trying to do like a special move. So you have these hierarchy of moves that interrupt others. So you basically go around the city. You could jump off these skyscrapers and do elbow drops from like 1,000 feet up. Or when you get your special move, you can grab somebody and do like a power bomb from, 2,000 feet up in the air, right? And the ring closes. So everybody kind of gets condensed together. A lot of people are saying that it looks like Bleeding Edge, and I guess you can say the art style has a little Bleeding Edge to it. Are
you telling me that if Bleeding Edge was a battle royale free to play, that it might have survived?
Probably, yeah, probably would have. Somebody says
funny.
Sounds like Scalebound combat, or no, Space Swords combat. It's fun, man. Iron Galaxy are the developers. Their last game was Killer Instinct.
Oh, Iron Galaxy.
Yeah. So it's
Oh,
published
that's
by Epic.
intriguing.
I don't know. We downloaded it. It's free to play. We had a bunch of fun playing it last night, but to be honest, I don't know how much more I'll play because I kind of got exactly what I wanted out of it already. I couldn't
Right.
imagine playing this for like 50 hours. Like it's probably a good like 5
Doesn't
to
have
10
staying
hour.
power.
Not for me. Like I don't care about any of the battle pass stuff or getting cosmetics and buying stuff that my character look interesting,
Yeah.
So it's just I don't know, it's a good diversion. It's just something to play if you're just kind of bored, but I was surprised by how much fun I was having with it cuz I was just like I'd seen videos of it before and I'm like, I don't know about this game, but playing in duos, yeah, we were having a good time. It was fun. It
That
was
was
fun
cool. I
indeed.
might check it out. I kind of you're saying like you don't know if you'll go back to it very much. I kind of like I've done that with multiverses. Like I played it really hardcore for like a couple of days, and then like well, I didn't even max out the battle pass. I like nearly maxed it out, and I just got burned out, and now I'm bored of it. And now like they're saying like, oh yeah, the next battle pass is coming soon, and I'm just like, man, I can't keep up with this. Because like everyone, like you stop playing for a little while, and then everyone knows the meta, and you have to keep up with everyone, and I just don't have the staying power anymore to do that. So I've kind of bounced off that one as well. But
Yeah.
oh well.
Ice Tyler says did Grub jinx Hogwarts Legacy? Lol. I don't think he jinxed it. I think he just put out a casual statement being like, we haven't heard much about Hogwarts Legacy. I wonder if it's actually coming out. Interesting. Georgie says Iron Galaxy CEO is Adam Boyes, who's a former PlayStation executive. Do you think he's the reason why we aren't getting a Killer Instinct 2 from Iron Galaxy?
No.
I would imagine
I think
they probably just wanted to do something that they owned, which I think they do own Rumbleverse.
Yeah.
It's just published by Epic.
Iron Galaxy made their last game wasn't Killer Instinct. They actually made something else that absolutely flopped.
Yeah, Extinction. Yeah.
Yeah, that was that.
That
game was that bombed hardcore bombage. But it sounds like this might have some legs to it. And lo and behold, it's another free-to-play game. Is everything free-to-play now? Is that just the future?
I mean, if it's multiplayer, I don't really think this is going to have legs because even when we were playing last night, number one, I didn't even know the game was releasing, right? So it was just kind of out of nowhere.
I've never heard of it.
Two, in the duos, so 40 people, it would take a good minute to find a game, which I don't really think that's a good wait time for a battle royale.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know. I just look at this game and I'm like, I just don't think this is going to take off. Like, clearly not like Fortnite or Rocket League or Fall Guys even, or Multiversus, which is doing very well because I think they just hit 10 million. It's just kind of like, at some point, are there just too many free-to-play games, or is this game just not appealing? Do anybody even know about it? It's an interesting question because, like you mentioned, is everything just free-to-play?
Yeah,
and if so, does that saturate the market? If there's just so much free content, but like no, you aren't really expanding how many people are playing on console.
There's got to be a limit. There has to be some kind of upper limit. Like my some of my friends have been talking about this new sort of Genshin kind of game called Tower of Fantasy. Have you heard of that?
No, I have not.
So that's like another kind of Genshin kind of game, but it's like sci-fi instead of medieval fantasy. It's basically Genshin but sci-fi. Gacha game, PC. That seems to be blowing up as well at the moment. And that's also free to play. Everything's free to play now. And but this is like the other side of that coin is like if your live service isn't, ready to go, that can be really bad. Looking at you, Halo.
Jeez. Can we get through an episode of this podcast without mentioning Scalebound and mentioning Halo? I don't know if we can.
Well, dude, I was gonna say something nice about Halo because some of the Forge creations I've been seeing are absolutely incredible.
Yeah, they do
And
look
if
really
there's
good.
one way, yeah. And if there's one way you can solve a content drought on your service game, is to get the community to make it for you.
Mm.
And Minecraft's modding business is massive. There are entire companies built on building custom maps for Minecraft. And I think Microsoft probably sees the potential for Halo Infinite as well. And Forge, where it'd be like there'll be companies who literally make custom games for Halo, and that's their company, So much like Roblox and stuff. So it's really cool to see some of the stuff that's been coming out of that. It's just a damn shame that he wasn't there for launch, because I think people's perception of Halo would be a lot different right now if he was there at launch.
It's funny when Bad Mother shows up in chat just as we're talking about Halo, or should I say you talk about Halo, him being the Halo guy. The Forge stuff I've seen, because I didn't really see any of it last week, but people had sent me some of it. It's really impressive. Kudos to 343 for making such a great tool set for people to make a whole bunch of stuff. It's just a matter of when
it looks really good.
When can people get their hands on that? I mean, you would need a really good community custom browser so people can actually, find the best sort of maps and whatever. So I think, if I recall correctly, it's supposed to come in beta for everybody in September, I want to say, if that's what they said. That's when they said the co-op was supposed to come in August, which, right? Co-op was supposed to come in August, which is this month, maybe the end of this month.
I can't remember, mate. Can't remember. I don't really keep up with Halo that much because I got Brendan Lowry and Windows Central to do all that for me.
Yeah.
I don't have to.
Someone's asking us if we're accepting applications for real gamers. I heard there's people that are doing this on Twitter. Are you accepting any applications for real gamers, Jez?
Real gamers? What does that mean?
I don't know.
Is that I did see some people tweeting something to do with that. So is someone put out a really bad take and then everyone's reacting to it?
I have no idea.
I haven't seen that. Are you a real gamer, Rand? Are you a real gamer though?
I'm a baby gamer.
Rand.
Baby gamer. Yeah.
You're not a real gamer unless you play World of Warcraft, in my view.
I mean, I don't know. What's the definition of a real gamer, I guess? Is there a definition of said thing?
I don't know, man.
Is this a Twitter thing?
IDK.
Yeah,
probably.
Icyler says, Scalebound reimagined with Unreal Engine 5. Maybe in your dreams.
Wasn't the original on Unreal Engine?
Yes, it was.
And that was the problem. I heard that they weren't that familiar with Unreal Engine, and they were trying to make an ambitious game on an engine they weren't familiar with. So maybe Unreal Engine's not a good idea. Scalebound remake. Remake? Ooh. What do you call it? Reboot? Speaking of reboots, before we get into the actual topics, did you see Miles's editorial about Phantom Dust?
No, I mean I saw the tweet. I didn't check out the article because I was like, who cares about Phantom Dust in the year of our Lord 2022,
Well, Rand, you would be surprised because the Phantom Dust community has they've put a Discord together where they do
there's a community of, what is it, 10 people strong?
I think it's 10,000 people.
10,000? That's got to be cap. That's got to be lies.
No. Hang on. Let me check. Let me just check.
I mean, Miles is in the chat. He's saying real gamers play Dark Souls on the surface of the sun.
Real gamers play Dark Souls via the cloud, baby.
Real gamers real gamers beat Elden Ring. You know what I mean, Jez?
Oh man. Okay, so the Phantom Dust Discord, right? There are 2,000 people on, 1,678 people online. And then if I scroll down to offline, God, that's a long ass list. Where's the offline section? Can't bloody find it. Okay, offline is hidden, so I can't see how many people are offline. Point being, there's a lot of damn people in the Phantom Dust server. A lot of damn people. And they organize community PvP events and stuff like that because, the in-game systems for some of that stuff isn't great. point being, Phantom Dust has a very passionate community, and it all started with a YouTube documentary. I don't know if you saw this, Rand, but someone put out a really good YouTube documentary, which was like Phantom Dust, Microsoft's forgotten masterpiece, and that has like kickstarted like a fandom of the game, which is
Really?
wild to me.
You know, I actually quite like Phantom Dust. I remember playing it on the OG with my brother. We both really liked it. And I was actually excited when in 2014, that infamous E3, where they revealed that. I was like, what? They're bringing back freaking Phantom Dust? And then, like, they really didn't. They just brought back OG Phantom Dust with updated fucking assets and textures and stuff, which was like, yeah, no, this is not what we wanted. So, would I like a new Phantom Dust? Sure, why not? Definitely more so than a new Scalebound. You know, if I want my Banjo Bros to have their Banjo games, you know, I want Miles and the 10,000 strong Phantom Dust community to get their day in the sun too. You know, Miles doesn't want, like, he never roots for anything I want. You know, it's always me. You know, I want Legend.
What do you want?
I want Legend of Mana, man. Come on, you know. Legend of Mana and all these Tactics Ogre remastered and stuff, right? Miles is all being like, "Give me this RPG from 1982 on Xbox, please." You know.
What do you want? You never tell us what you want.
What do I want?
Yeah, what do you want?
I mean, I kind of got what I wanted. I got Alan Wake 2, so I'm kind of like happy with that. Like, I don't know. I mean, I got my Dead Space remake. Got my Dead Space reimagined with, you know, Callisto Protocol. I mean, you know, for the most part, I've kind of gotten what I wanted. If I could get a better Wheel of Time show, well, that's not really gaming, but you know, that's exactly what I would. You know,
you got a good, a good Sandman show at least.
Yeah, good, really great Sandman show. Maybe a Mass Effect coming back and not being bad would be great. You know, Dragon Age for you. I guess I don't really need any like older stuff to come back. You know, so
I want Dino Crisis, man.
Yeah, Dino Crisis coming back would be killer. It definitely would. Oh, they got that. What's that game that has the dinosaurs? Exoprimal. And I've seen some footage of it. Looks like it could be a little bit fun there. You know.
Yeah, my brother played it. He was in the beta, and I went in and checked it out in his room when I was over in England, and it actually does look really crazy. I have no idea how they can get that many dinosaurs on screen without tanking the frame rate. Because my brother doesn't have an amazing computer, and there's like 1,000 raptors, fully animated, fully textured on screen, zerging around, and you're blowing them all up with like these Overwatch Anthem kind of powers. Really cool concept. I just wonder if the execution will actually be good, and I suppose that remains to be seen. Man, we're going off on some serious tangents.
Yeah, but this is what we do. This is what the people want, you know. Shout out to Everborn Saga.
That was long.
I know, but don't people like the long shows? I don't know. I always hear that they want the shows to be longer. They get disappointed when the shows are short. At least that's what people tell me. Everborn says. This is Everborn, the conspiracy theorist, by the way, Jez. He's got 1,000,002 conspiracy theories for literally everything. What up, fellas? Listening while working on Everborn: The Red Lands, which is his graphic novel series. Yeah, and a game too as well. Also Sega. He's a big Sega guy. You know, kind of like same thing with Lord Cognito, Sega kids. I mean, I was a Sega kid too, but you know, I just. They want Sega to be the next target after Activision Blizzard, right? They want Microsoft to focus on Japan and being like, all right, Sega's next. Which, I mean, it wouldn't be super exciting for me personally, but I could see the appeal. A lot of Japanese, you know, strong IPs. You got some PC stuff you could do. You know, Sonic, which I don't know if you saw today, like Sega was like, we are not delaying Sonic Frontiers. Or whatever, because people are like, that game needs to be delayed, you know, because of how bad it looks, and they're just like, we are not delaying this game. So
it looks horrible. Sonic is not great, but I still want them to. I still want them to buy Sega because Yakuza's great and Atlas is great, and I've been playing a certain upcoming Atlas game
Ooh,
recently,
wonder which one that could be.
and yeah, it's pretty great.
A
And
certain Atlas game that comes out this month, maybe.
yeah, maybe. Atlas are great, and I can't remember. I can never remember the name of the studio that makes Yakuza, but they're great too.
What is that studio? RPG
Studio.
mm,
I can't remember what they're called off the top of my head. But Sega has some great studios and some great IP. Once again, going off a massive tangent here, and they also get their team for Age of Empires. Which they do have a small team internally for Age of Empires, but they're not big enough to really make a full blown game. I don't think, it's at least not at the quality level that people demand Age of Empires to be. So I think Sega's would be a great one to go for next, but I don't know. Maybe in the short term, I want them to go after some smaller studios like IO Interactive, get the Hitman IP, save that from Square Enix before they
eventually get bought by PlayStation.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think they should land Creative Assembly as well, lock them down because they're basically helping 343 right now. No, not Creative Assembly. Sorry, Certain Affinity. I always get them mixed up.
Creative Assembly is owned by Sega. So if you bought Sega, you would get Creative Assembly.
Yeah. So yeah, screw it, get them both. But yeah, I want Sega too. I'm a Sega kid. I want my next gen Gunstar Heroes. Bring that back. I want my next gen Golden Axe. I want my next gen.
They did make a next gen Golden Axe, and nobody bought it during the 360 era.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I remember that one. But an actually good one. I think Golden Axe could be like a good Souls-like kind of game.
Marco R says in the super chat, Gaz can tell you about real gamers. Oh, is Gaz up in here too? Man, everybody's here. We got Miles and OBM and Punk Soul and Gaz. No sauce. No go live tomorrow. First time they've had to skip. Remember when we used to do this show on Saturdays too, and Gaz would get so mad at me? I'd have to apologize to him. I'd send him a DM and be like, bro, I'm sorry, just can't do the show Friday. We have to do the show Saturday. And he'd be like, it's okay, bro. And I'm like, if it was anybody else, he'd probably be bitching at us. Isylar says, let's say Activision deal goes through this year. Can Xbox put all the old CODs on Game Pass right away? Probably. I mean,
I would think so.
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft said like as soon as the deal.
Sorry, I was going to say there'd be some like minor development work to do that because there is some like integration you have to do and stuff. So it wouldn't be like literally overnight. It's not like flipping a switch or whatever. But yeah, I mean that'd appear pretty quickly. How quickly did the Bethesda games appear? They all appeared pretty quickly, and then even now some of the really old games like Hexen started appearing on PC Game Pass, which is amazing. You've played Hexen, by the way. That is one IP that desperately needs to come back. Yeah, Hexen's basically Doom with wizards. So you're a wizard, Harry.
I think a lot of the CODs would come to Game Pass as soon as they're able to. Achievement says setting up a 32-inch 1440p 165 hertz IPS monitor in time for Spider-Man to hit Steam. Think Sony's going to link PSN to PC gaming? Trophies on PC would be a boon. Yeah, I mean, there's some talk that Sony's eventually going to make their own launcher. And there's language in some of their things where they say currently you can't do this or like link saves or whatever. So there's a possibility that like at some point, a year from now, they have their own launcher, and maybe they even have cross-buy where it's like, oh, you buy it on PlayStation, you get it on, but you'd have to use their launcher, and maybe you got like you can cross-save back and forth. It's just that people are just speculating based on some of the language of it, Yeah. Because I think they're gonna speed up the games coming to PC. Everybody's like, well, it's okay because they're 4 years in between. Like, who really cares about Spider-Man Remastered coming to, PC? It's a 4-year-old game, but there's not always going to be 4 years,
It's not always going to be 1 year.
I mean, even Miles is a 2-year, thing, so it's only a matter of time before they get down to a year, and then maybe by the end of the generation, they're all day and date. I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Gamer Dad and Kai says Activision Blizzard King equals Actibling. Okay, there we go. What did I call it? Actibling. What did I call it? Activision. Yeah. Did that ever take up? No.
Activision King. That doesn't really work. Activision. Should we get in some topics?
Yeah. So we'll talk about the delays. So you got two big games that were delayed this week. Midnight Suns from 2K, which was the the game from Firaxis, the XCOM developers. That game was supposed to come out in October, and now it's delayed, but they haven't given a new date. And then today, Hogwarts Legacy got delayed. All they really said about that game was I think it was holiday 2022 or winter 2022. And then today they came out and said it's coming February 10th of 2023. Jez, are you worried about any other games this year making 2022? Because it didn't seem like anything safe at this point.
I don't care.
Oh my God! Here we go with this stuff. I don't care. You do care. I know you care. I know you care.
What do I care about? What game in 2022 do I care about?
You wanted to play Starfield a lot, really badly.
Yeah, but that's delayed now. That's happened. So I'm over it. But like current games that are coming out in 2022, I'm not really interested.
Arc Raiders got delayed, which I didn't even know was supposed to be coming out this year.
Actually, there is one game that could get delayed in 2022 that would be concerning.
Which would?
World of Warcraft Dragonflight is meant to come out by the end of 2022.
Nobody cares about World of Warcraft.
So that could be delayed. Oh no! No, not Dragonflight. See, I'm freaking out now. Damn. I jinxed that shit by saying I didn't care. Sorry, Rand. Go on. Continue.
Yes. Sebastian says, "Don't worry, Rand. It's okay if games get delayed. It's only bad when Microsoft does it." Yeah, but I mean, people freak the fuck out when Redfall and Starfield get delayed. But then it's kind of like, man, look at all these other games getting delayed. It seems like it's normal, I suppose.
People just don't want to accept that the pandemic created a sort of crease, a sort of, I don't know, a dent in the pipeline for basically every single major game from AAA studio. You know, every studio that wasn't set up for remote working had to go remote working overnight, and basically they lost a whole year of development. You know, from what I've been told, on average. I might try and do a sort of in-depth article to explain this at some point by talking to devs and stuff, and you know, really sort of digging down into the nitty-gritty of what effect the pandemic actually had on development of pipelines and milestones and stuff like that. But nobody wants to accept it. That this is the lost year of gaming, and it's the pandemic is to blame. Like it or not, the pandemic is to blame. And hopefully 2023 and beyond will start being a little less rough on the whole shebang.
Now 2023 is packed. Man, you got a whole bunch of stuff coming out in the early half of next year. And I bet you some of those games get delayed to later because the release schedule is going to be so full that, you know, certain games won't want to compete with other games, so then they'll get delayed just because they can't release around the same time frame. But I mean, I guess like if we're looking at stuff coming out soon, I've always kind of doubted Callisto Protocol. Like, Callisto Protocol's like hanging on that edge. It's already December. You know, it's a brand new IP. I almost kind of feel like,
that's next.
You're almost like, okay, you're just one little tiny sneeze away from just, you know, one little internal thing where like, oops, this didn't come in on time or in a way that we wanted. Like, oh, this game's now delayed to 2023, you know?
Yeah, Rand just jinxed it, guys. So if Callisto Protocol gets delayed, it's all Rand's fault.
Just basically what you need to do is just save all your money for next year, because there are going to be a lot of games to buy.
And hit that backlog.
Yeah, and hit that like button as well.
Backlog.
Please hit the like button.
Yeah.
You know, Jez is also.
Like
you were saying a lot of people were hitting us up for questions about Patreon. I don't know. Me and Jez were discussing possible Patreon things. That's why Jez sent out that tweet kind of getting ideas. Maybe we'll do some stuff. I don't know. How would Patreon people feel about like an exclusive podcast once a month or something, where it's just us and Patreon people, or with the guests too, or something like that? I don't know. That then we put on YouTube like after a couple days or something. I don't know. Just throwing things out
It'd
there.
be extra content. It wouldn't be content that we took away from what we do already. It'd have to be extra content. But man, man's busy already, bro.
I mean, you're already busy. You already got 2 podcasts. You know, I'm trying to get back in the video making mood. You know, I see Miles Don PA's not even making videos anymore. So, you know, but I only say that because he posted something about it on Twitter. Maybe we could make a Peppa Pig's OnlyFans where I showcase my Peppa Pig gameplay on OnlyFans. Maybe people would care to watch that. But
I just got some really disturbing images in my head.
Did
when
you?
You said Peppa Pig OnlyFans. Yeah, I'm depressed now. I need therapy. Great.
What else we got here?
That's some bacon I don't want to see.
Oh, you want to see it? Garuda says in the super chat, I feel as though a lot of the goodwill between PlayStation and Xbox will be lost over the ABK deal. Sony have shown their hand with their anti-competitive ways. As a response, Diablo 4 exclusive to Xbox. I mean, we mentioned this in the beginning. I don't really think there's a lot of goodwill between PlayStation and Xbox. Like, there might be a lot of like outward-facing PR stuff, public, like, hey, we're buddies, PlayStation, Xbox play together, but like, I think behind the scenes, it's very much like, you know, Phil will be publicly being like, hey, you know, rising tide lifts all boats, right? Meaning that the more people play video games, like, we all benefit, stuff like that. But I think they know that Sony's not really like that. They're out here to like...
Sony's evil.
They're out here to dominate. They're out here to kill. And that response that Microsoft had to Sony, you know, Sony's fears of Game Pass and Call of Duty, Microsoft response basically, I think, was just one of those things where it's like, yeah, Microsoft's kind of had enough of this, you know? So,
well, Sony misrepresented the reality of things. They really did. And, you know, they're trying to paint themselves as like the little guy being abused by big, mean Microsoft, you know? And Microsoft's just like, well, we're not letting you do that because you're the ones who are basically trying to fuck our business and fuck our customers. So I'm all about that shit, baby. I'm all about it. Get the gloves off, you know.
Get the gloves off, huh?
Get those gloves off, baby. And let's, you know, I agree with the super chat. You know, flip Diablo 4 to be an exclusive. Do it. Do it.
It's probably...
We only ever said sorry, go on.
Well, I mean, it's already been announced. That's the problem. It's already been announced for PlayStation. I know Xbox does like to be seen as the good guy, and they do need that, especially with like their sort of lobbying power in DC, where they're seen as like the good, you know, big tech company, right? They're like the good citizen model. So like, you have a game like Diablo 4. Already announced for PlayStation, and the optics probably aren't great if you buy Activision and it's like, no PlayStation version anymore, even though it's already been announced. You know, which is why Microsoft...
Diablo 5?
Diablo 5 could be exclusive. Yeah. 100%. If they ever make one. Who knows? Maybe they never make another Diablo 5. They just keep on making Diablo Immortals. Diablo Immortal 2, Diablo Immortal 3, you know?
Well, it is making $100 million a month right now.
Yeah.
Free to play, baby. Free to play.
Yeah, pay to win. At least Rumbleverse is just... Rumbleverse... The other thing is, like, I was looking at it, it's like, man, the whole industry just decided at the same time that, like, free-to-play games would just sell cosmetics. It's like, hey, you want these skins and stuff? And all these different, like, things? Like, just pay us money. Which is great for me, because I don't care what my character looks like. But I know people do. So a lot of people get stuck spending money on stuff. But then you have a game like Diablo Immortal, which is pay to win. Which is, you know, it's... I don't know if that would fly in the console market today. Either way.
No, it wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't think it would.
Oh, dude, did you see that Diablo Immortal story about the guy who spent $100,000
Yes,
on the game?
I sure
So, like,
did.
for those that don't know, I think it was a Twitch streamer, right? I want to say it was a Twitch streamer. Twitch streamer or someone like that spent $100,000 on microtransactions in Diablo Immortal. And because their character is so powerful now, because there's basically no cap on how powerful you can make the character, they can't matchmake with anyone. There's literally nobody in the entire game as powerful as they are. So the game's matchmaking algorithms like, oh, there's no one who matches this player, so they can't play the game anymore. They literally spent $100,000 and they can't play the game. I mean, I'm sure that's a bug they'll fix, but god damn, it's just a sort of extreme example of how much bullshit that game is, really.
True.
What are you gonna do though? What are you gonna do? You can't argue with 100 million. I saw another similar story earlier today, where our old pals EA, they argued that FIFA Ultimate Team loot boxes are a good thing because our gamers love them. So, FIFA Ultimate Team, the ultimate pay to win console game, which is, you were saying that they don't get away with pay to win in console games anymore, but they do in sports games. Sports games, they get away with it, like hook, line, and sinker. And FIFA is one of the worst actors of it. And EA's like, their justification is, well, people pay for it, so they must like it, But they never talk about the fact that only 1% of people pay for it. They've just got more purchasing power and thus more influence over how games are designed because of that. So yeah, you can chalk that up to our good old friend capitalism. Thanks, capitalism.
Ice Tyler says exclusive hot tub stream for Patreon supporters. Well,
oh yeah, we definitely get on that shit.
Yeah, Zane
That's some
says
serious capitalism.
Do you think Microsoft will get rid of Sony's marketing deal with COD after this acquisition? Heard the deal prevents new COD from being on Game Pass for 1 year. I think.
Yep, that's the first thing that's going to go.
Well, sure, eventually, but I don't think Microsoft is going to change the existing deals, right? Like
they're not going to change the existing deals, but as soon as that shit is expired, yes, Microsoft ain't going to renew it. The first thing they'll want to do is associate Call of Duty with the Xbox brand, because that's what Sony's scared of ultimately. Is that right now people perceive COD as a PlayStation game, even though like it's multi-platform, because that's the power of these marketing deals, and that's the power that Xbox had in the past gen, when Xbox had the Call of Duty marketing deal, But then Sony was just like, yeah, we'll pay more for it than what Microsoft will. And Microsoft, I guess, in a way, got a bit complacent with it. Because I do think not having that marketing deals hurt Xbox to some degree.
100%, yeah. I mean, because Sony also grabbed like FIFA marketing, they had Star Wars marketing, right? Like they had all these big things, and that really
No Man's Sky.
Yeah, I mean, they had a lot. They had a lot of big franchises that they had marketing with, like Assassin's Creed for a bit before Xbox tried getting them. I always, it's funny because remember last year people were like, we got Xbox has Battlefield marketing. And then Battlefield 2042 ended up being just like disaster anyways. But yeah, I expect when the deal gets done that they'll honor the contracts. Sony marketing, according to Jason Schreier, they had like marketing for Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and Treyarch's next game. So Treyarch's next game also supposedly got delayed until 2024. So
is that Call of Duty as well? That's Call of Duty, right?
Yeah, Treyarch is Call of Duty studio. So
just the way you said that made it sound like they might be working on something that wasn't Call of Duty.
Well, Infinity Ward has job listings for like a RPG game that they're working on. Some people think might be some like standalone zombie game or something like that.
Call of Duty RPG.
I mean, we just don't know, but that's what Jason Schreier reported, and I just think Microsoft is very keen about playing everything super, like they want the deal to go through, so they're not going to cause any ripples. And I think like they're just not going to change any deals, so they're going to just be like, all right, we own Call of Duty now, but Sony can market this. But then it's like, does Sony really want to market an Xbox game? Because essentially it's just going to be, when Treyarch game comes out in 2024, PlayStation may just be like, do we even want to market this? Because we're just going to lose this franchise in next year anyways. And I don't know how that stuff's going to play out. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens from it all. Akbar says, do you think Xbox will use Blizzard Cinematic Studios for anything non-Blizzard? It will be their best studio. Change my mind. But they only make cinematics, and I will say their cinematics are top notch.
The best. They're the best.
Amazing.
They're the best. Nothing comes close in this entire industry to Blizzard cinematics. The cinematic for the cinematic trailer for Diablo 4, I think, is the best game trailer of all time. That trailer is just perfect. And like, I played through Diablo 2 Resurrected recently, which has not aged well. Diablo 2 has not aged well, in my opinion. And I don't have nostalgia for the original. And I did complete it, but it has not aged well, in my view. That being said, they put a bunch of Blizzard cinematics in them. And my God, it was almost worth suffering through the old school gameplay just for those cinematics. The cinematics for Diablo 2 are absolutely incredible. And I think even if you're not a Diablo fan, go and check out Diablo 2 Resurrected or whatever it's called. I can never remember because they should just, everyone should just call it remake, but everyone's coming up with different ways to say remake these days. But the Diablo 2 remake, go on YouTube, check out like a list of all those cinematics because they are absolutely incredible. Now, would they be allocated to other studios? I think it's possible. We could see them leveraged more across different teams, but Activision themselves haven't really used them.
Yeah, I was about to say
beyond
that
Blizzard.
They haven't really used them that much.
Yeah.
So I would hazard to guess that no, they wouldn't be like used across other studios. I don't know. That's just.
I mean, maybe they expand teams so they can do that, but I don't know. I mean, it seems like they have their work cut out just working on Blizzard stuff, I'm guessing like Blizzard, these cinematics take a damn long time to make, and they're probably working on Diablo 4 right now. And, possibly some other stuff. It's interesting because World of Warcraft had some Blizzard cinematics a couple of expansions ago. They did a huge amount of Blizzard cinematics for that expansion, and they'd never done that before. They never did that before. And then the next expansion didn't have any, which is weird because I guess they're working on Diablo. So probably the team basically prioritizes, they're probably not big enough or have enough staff or enough expertise to work on multiple projects at the same time. So like while they did do cinematics for Battle for Azeroth, they haven't done any for Shadowlands, and they did the launch cinematic for Dragonflight, but I don't think they're doing any more beyond the launch cinematic. So yeah, I don't think they will, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
in a very
long way of saying that. That's why this podcast ends up being as long as it is, because Jez takes 20 minutes to answer a question he could say in 5 seconds. But that's why we love it. That's why people listen.
I just think it out loud, basically. I just sort of go through every scenario in my head analytically and then saying it as I'm thinking it.
Keyshawn Thompson,
works, right?
Who's been a member for 9 months, says, hey, hope you guys are having a great podcast. Are all y'all excited for the Saints Row reboot? Yes, I am really excited. Do you think it has a possibility of it coming to Game Pass? I would say no. I don't think so.
Never, ever, never.
Well, I
think it could eventually.
Sure, eventually, there's a good chance because a lot of Embracer games, Phil. I think, do. Yeah, Phil's calling. Be like, hey, don't let people know Saints Row's coming to Game Pass day one. But yeah, I think I don't think it'll come day one.
No,
as I still get the feeling in the sense that a lot of the industry is basically like, we like Game Pass, but we only like
only
Game Pass
sometimes.
is like once our game stops selling, and we'll put it in
Yes.
there 6 months to a year. Like, we are very concerned about doing it day one, and there's really nothing else coming out in August. So Saints Row basically has the window to itself. I don't really think they're gonna be like, we need Game Pass for this. So no, I don't think they're gonna do it.
Yeah.
And maybe a year from now, maybe 6 months from now, But with PlayStation Plus out there, maybe the bidding war for these games has gotten more expensive, and maybe it's not worth it. I don't know. Microsoft has their work cut out for them, because before there really wasn't any competition. Not like Stadia was competition or Luna. But now you have PlayStation needing games too. And that just drives up the price for these titles. So there might be a possibility where Saints Row comes to PlayStation Plus before it ever comes to Game Pass. You just don't know about these things. Isiler says, I assume the contract for Deathloop on PlayStation is longer than most thought. I mean, we don't know that for sure. I've been saying don't make the assumption that you'll be playing Deathloop on Xbox in September. Because we all know where assuming got us, right? People were assuming Starfield was 100% locked for this year. Assuming makes an ass out of you and me. People were assuming that Avowed and Hellblade 2 might show up this holiday, and who knows, it may not even show up next year. When it comes to Xbox and release dates, don't assume anything. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how long the deal is for Deathloop. Could be exactly a year, and we'll hear an announcement soon. Maybe we hear an announcement at QuakeCon, which is coming up. Maybe maybe September rolls around and we just get a Game Pass post, and it's like, oh, Deathloop has been announced for Xbox and it's coming in 2 weeks. So who knows? We'll find out eventually. Yeah. We'll find out real soon whether or not Deathloop is coming on its 1 year anniversary. We'll find out real soon. What else we got here? I think that's it. So, oh man, let's talk about the good stuff. Let's talk about Xbox versus PlayStation, Jez. You ready for this?
Hell
because
yeah.
When we talked about it last week, you didn't have much to say because you were just like, it's whatever. It's just two corporate entities protecting their businesses, and I wanted something spicy from you. I wanted a spicy take. I wanted you to educate everybody, but you were just kind of like, there's nothing here. How are you feeling now about Microsoft's response? Is that waking up the beast inside you to come out to play a little bit? Give me a little bit more to work with than just like a 2-sentence thing. You talk for 10 minutes about whatever you just talked about, and you could only give me like 2 minutes of talk about Xbox to Activision. Like, you gotta give me something here, Jez. You gotta give me something.
I'm still kind of meh.
Oh my God, here we go. Why did we even do this podcast then? Why did we even do this show? Let's just stop it right now. If you're gonna give me spicy takes about other stuff, but you're not gonna give me actually good takes about the real stuff, what are we doing this thing for?
The reason I'm meh about it
is
because,
oh my God, meh.
Because it doesn't really matter what either of them say at the end of the day, because this deal's going through, and there's nothing Sony can say to possibly stop it. However, that being said, and where it does get interesting is in a lot of the details that have sort of been re-examined or reiterated, because a lot of this stuff actually came out in the Epic court case with Apple, funnily enough, because they had to sort of educate the game industry, not the game industry, they had to educate the jury on how the game industry works, and a lot of some of the shady stuff that happens behind the scenes with regards to these kind of deals, so they had to go through a lot of this stuff when they did the Epic court case, and I can't remember, but some of these documents weren't meant to be unsealed.
Yes,
and for some reason they did get unsealed. Yes. I don't know. I can't remember if it was a leak or it was just a mistake.
It was a mistake.
Did get unsealed.
Yes, they were
Yeah, we
accidentally
missed that.
unsealed and whatever, and we got to see the info, and we weren't supposed to. Yes.
Yeah, we weren't supposed to. So that was probably very embarrassing for Sony. But the problem is, like, they've sort of put themselves in a position where it's happening again because they're making arguments that's kind of forcing Microsoft to present some of this stuff as evidence and just be like, well, you guys do this, and that's anti-competitive, and we're protecting our business by buying Activision, basically. You won't let us get Call of Duty on their system because you put clauses in your contracts, that threaten companies. And even before all this stuff started coming out, like years ago, I can't remember exactly which dev it was, but you might remember because you often remember things that I don't.
Mm-hmm.
But I told you ages ago, I'm talking years ago, that some company had basically been threatened by Sony to not appear at their E3 event or something.
Mm-hmm.
And if they did, their game would be like removed from PlayStation or something. Now, I can't this was years ago, but that's something I heard. And I was like, I don't know if this is true. But after seeing some of these unsealed documents, I kind of believe it now.
Mm.
And he's like, Sony are ruthless dudes, man. And at the end of the day, they got shareholders to protect, and they got a duty of care to their shareholders, which is kind of why I'm mad about it, because it's like, yeah, they're just doing what any publicly traded company would do. But I think, like, what is the most interesting aspect of this is because, in my view, Sony know they're not going to win. Sony lawyers know they don't have a leg to stand on. Sony know at the end of the day, they're arguing against capitalism itself. And you can't argue against capitalism, baby, because Microsoft's going to give shareholders a massive return on their investment. And that's the only way a lot of these investors are going to get a return on their investment, because without this deal, I don't think Activision share price recovers without this deal. I don't think it recovers. So for people who are like holding the bag, as it were, they desperately want this deal to go through. And now you've got like major players like Warren Buffett and shit dropping billions of dollars in shares on Activision because they are convinced the deal's going to go through. Personally, I defer to Warren Buffett over Sony's lawyers about whether or not this deal's viable or not. But it's so funny because despite probably not knowing that they can't stop it happening, they're still exposing sort of how bothered Sony is by all this, right? And that's kind of what your video is about. So
Yes.
give us your take, Rand, because
Okay.
I'm not someone who really cares. I only really see of it as analytically.
Yeah.
The only thing I want out of this is more money for World of Warcraft.
Marcus Goodwin has a
hear
good
your
comment
take.
in chat. And he says, so Jez can only talk about Kardashians and Mayo. Which is true. Like, Jez has these spicy takes about all these different stupid stuff. But when it comes to, like, full-on console war in the court, Jez is just like, whatever. I don't got much to say. It's like, what, dude?
I don't
you just
console war, man.
Dude,
Two big rich-ass companies crying in a courtroom?
It's hilarious, though. It's hilarious. Because...
Oh, shit.
Look.
Hang on a sec.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to begin?
Okay.
I'll just read this super chat. Hansworst says, please do some predictions for Gamescom. Major Nelson's podcast said today that Pentiment Grounded, Benedict Fox, and Plague's Tale 2 will be playable. Yeah, we will definitely be talking about Gamescom after we talk about this thing. And iSiler says, so does Sony pay Xbox to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation, or Xbox simply gets almost all the money for the sales? How does this work? I mean, presumably to be similar to Minecraft, where, Xbox would get 70% of the money and Sony would take their 30% cut or whatever cut they've negotiated. I would imagine it would just work out the same. Instead of the money just going to go to Activision Blizzard, who's now going to be owned by Xbox or Microsoft, so it's just that money. So, Josh wants to know if I think the deal will get done this year. I've stated from the beginning, and I'm just going to keep with it, I think it closes early next year, January or February. I would like for it to close this year because that's more stuff to talk about.
I think it closes this year.
Okay, now you've changed your prediction because you've been with me this whole time saying that it's gonna.
I've changed.
So now this is spicy because you've also been out with me. So now you think it's closing this year. Tell me why you've changed your mind. I find this interesting because me and you've been locked in step on this.
Yeah, we were, but I've changed my mind. I think it goes through sooner.
Okay.
Because all this stuff's playing out now.
Okay.
All the documents are filed, and all that matters now is different, countries sort of offering their opinions and stuff. And I don't think they want to be bogged down for months and months and months and months with this deal, which is it's too big to fail. It's too damn big to fail. So many people are going to lose money if this deal fails. So I just don't think it fails, and I think even like the most sort of hawkish regulators are just going to be like, yeah, just whatever, and they're just going to get it over and done with as soon as possible. That's my current thought process. So I'm going to say that it gets done by the end of this year.
Okay, give me a month. Give me a time frame. Give me a month.
I can't.
What do you mean you can't? Just pick a month and say
by the end of this year, December.
So you think it closes by December? Okay.
By December, yeah. By December 31st. But that's that. I could be wrong.
There we go. There you go.
I could be wrong, man. I could be.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't want to claim. I don't want to claim an absolute. I'm not a Sith.
But you should
I'm a Sith dealing absolutes, man.
So Jez has changed his mind. He's about to get slothed. Jez Corden of Windows Central is now saying that the Activision deal will go. It doesn't matter. Sloth doesn't hear that. Sloth doesn't hear that. He only hears that Jez is now predicting it closes this year. And because you're world famous Windows Central editor, that bears a certain amount of weight. Nobody cares what YouTuber Randall Thor 19 says or what any of my predictions are. I'm a nobody. Man. I'm the interviewer of Jez Corden on this podcast every week. So I'm waiting for the sloth to show up here.
Sloth, no, don't sloth me. Too young to die.
Jeremy G says Xbox's November drought is solved by adding a bunch of Activision Blizzard games when the deal closes in November. I mean, I think Xbox would love it to close right before Modern Warfare 2 came out. Because, oh boy, would their books look really good. If you could add Modern Warfare 2's financials to your... Modern Warfare 2 is going to be absolutely massive. I mean, eventually they'll just have the money anyways because they'll acquire the company, but that could count for this year's, fiscal year and stuff. Like, ooh, that'd be nice. But I'm still going to go with my prediction. Now, this whole thing is super interesting because it's two corporations fighting for their own interest. You got Sony, basically out there saying that, bloviating about the importance of Call of Duty.
Good word.
Right? They're out there pontificating about it. Telling anybody to listen just how important Call of Duty is. And it wouldn't be fair if they didn't have it. They needs it. But at the same time, talking about Game Pass and how that could be anti-competitive in the future, especially if you combine it with Call of Duty, because, Call of Duty's has no rival, and all the different adjectives that Sony used to describe that game, which is fun. It was like, okay, you don't really see this, and I didn't expect Microsoft to respond. Like, they took the time out, their lawyers were paid, and they responded to all this stuff. And reading through it, it felt like Microsoft had an edge here. Like, they had something to prove. Like, now listen, Sony, you've been bullying, using your market leader position for years, getting exclusives for stuff that we haven't been able to get, and you dare insinuate that it's not fair that, we potentially could do this on a bigger scale. It's and basically saying to everybody that Sony's arguing not on the merits of the transaction. They're arguing it's just bad for them and not bad for the industry.
Yes.
Like, oh, Microsoft owning Activision Blizzard is bad for us. Yeah, no shit. No shit. Xbox having Call of Duty is bad for you, PlayStation. Uh-huh. Yeah. Like, anybody that has a brain would realize that. Right? Because reading all this stuff, they haven't accurately explained why it would be anti-competitive or bad for the industry. They're just being like, well, this is bad for us. Okay. You know, and it's just funny to see Microsoft just come out there and being like, see? And people said I was a clickbaiter. You know, and I like to clickbait my titles sometime, give it a little extra spice. You know, because I said Sony was scared and they were fearful of Game Pass. And that's exactly what Microsoft is saying in these things. That Sony is scared of having to compete with an innovative subscription service. And that they don't want to compete with it. So they're worried that Sony is basically worried about the increased competition. Not that the deal will harm the industry. They just don't want to lose console sales to Xbox, to lose game sales to Xbox, to lose money to Xbox. Like, they don't want that. They're worried about that because they don't want to compete. Like, Sony wants to play ball on the field that they've built and cultivated over the last 5 generations, right? When you play Sony's game, Sony wins. They dominate. Microsoft had to go in a different direction after the disaster of the Xbox One gen and was like, all right, let's sort of play a similar game, but not really. We're gonna go heavy in subscriptions, and we got the money to sort of back it. Sony doesn't want to play in Microsoft's field because they feel they would lose because they don't have the resources to basically compete that way. They want everything to stay the same. Because when everything stays the way it currently is, Sony wins. But Microsoft's out there being like, no, we want things to be a little bit different. We think consumers will benefit more. You got all these games on a cheap subscription. You know, that's very compelling. And Sony just doesn't want the increased competition. So, like, reading through all these responses, it's interesting to see how Microsoft truly feels and how Sony actually feels. Because normally this stuff is hidden. I mean, the video game industry is so secretive, Jez. Right? We've talked about it I don't know how many times. Like, we don't know when games get greenlit. We don't know how much games are, you know, cost to make, or how much they sell, or how much, you know, like, you compare it to like the movie industry and stuff. Like, everybody knows, like, the second a movie goes into production, who's making it, who's writing it, what the cast is, what the budget is, all that stuff. Like, when the movies come out, you know exactly how much each movie made every single week. Like, with video game industries, they just kind of glom on to the secrecy of how it operates. So when you get a peek behind the curtain, it's so damn interesting to me. So, I mean, just, you read just some of these quotes that they said here about, let me try to find some of these things, right? Like, Microsoft says literally, in short, Sony is not resigned to having to compete with Microsoft's subscription service. Sony's public outcry on subscription games and the company's response are clear. Sony doesn't want attractive subscription services to threaten its dominance in the market for digital distribution of console games. In other words, Sony rails against the introduction of a new monetization model capable of challenging its business model. I mean,
this is why
it's amazing.
This is why it's so silly. It's amazing, but it's amazing that it's out there, but it's also at the same time it's so silly that they're even trying to argue against it, because the argument they're trying to argue against is ultimately, we don't want consumers to be able to pay less. Now, what regulator is going to sit there and be like, oh, that's a good argument, especially in this current climate, right? Especially with Democrats in the White House. it's kind of like I know this is all coming out of Brazil, right? A lot.
Yeah,
of
this
stuff.
is their response to Brazil. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just hilarious to me, and this is the same conversations that are going to take place in America probably with the FTC, where Sony's like, this is bad for us, and then they're kind of like, well, how is it bad for consumers? And they're like,
Well, their argument is
know.
that it might be bad for consumers because quality of games might go down, which in any other market
Subjective.
on the existence of Earth, there's always, different levels of quality of anything, right? There's, freaking, you can go out there and get a Lamborghini if you want, but then you can also go get a Honda, like, right? There's really high-end pizzas and really, if you want a $40 pizza that tastes amazing, or you can go get Domino's. Like, the idea that affects consumers in a negative way is an odd thing, because that's basically how the entire economy and everything works. Like, somebody's always going to offer a better product, or somebody's always going to offer a cheaper product that may not be as good as the better product. It's just how it works. It's how it's always worked. So, like,
it's like I say, they're arguing against capitalism itself, which is a non-viable argument.
But the thing
in a lot of
is,
ways.
and I understand, like, Sony and Microsoft are just protecting their business interests. Like, Microsoft wants this deal to go through, a lot of money on the line, right? They would get a lot of the rewards from this, and Sony is like, we don't want this to go through. We don't want Microsoft to own Call of Duty because of X, Y, and Z. It's like it's probably the game that makes the most money on PlayStation. So for Sony's best interest, the best interest for them is for this deal to get completely blocked, right? Like, I bet you if this deal was blocked, like if the FTC blocked it and Microsoft had to take the FTC to court or whatever, they'd be having celebrations at PlayStation headquarters. Jim Ryan would be busting out the bubbly, dude, doing his dance moves all over the place. They would love it. They would love it.
His dance moves.
He'd be doing his dance moves.
Of course I would.
But
I mean, it's ultimately like Sony has lawyers employed, and their job is to literally defend the company's interests. So a lot of these arguments seem ridiculous because they've got nothing else. They're grasping at straws. They're grasping at greased up straws, and it's very slippery. Very, very slippery straws. So I'm just over it. Just get it
over it.
Get
How
done.
could you be over it? It
I'm
literally
over it.
just happened. How could you be over it? It's the best
I'm
thing.
over the whole
It's the best thing
thing.
that's literally happened out of this. Like, sure, the announcement that they bought Activision Blizzard was a stunner. Like, Cognito literally called me that morning, woke me up, and he's like, they bought Activision Blizzard. And I'm like, in my, like, you wake up and you're in that kind of daze, and you're like, wait, what? Say that again? Like, they bought what? Like, they bought Activision Blizzard. And I didn't believe him. I didn't believe Cognito. I was like, nah, they did. Activision? Like, really? Like, are you telling me Xbox owns Call of Duty now? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, this can't be true. So I go to Xbox.com. Sure enough, there's that image that we love that they did with the Bethesda, welcoming the teams of Activision Blizzard. And I was like, wow, this is okay. And you knew this caused waves because that day Sony's like, well, we expect Xbox to honor deals, and Call of Duty's we're still going to be on our plan. Like, immediately Sony's just like, Call of Duty's still right, because with Bethesda they didn't say shit. Like, nobody cared about like, Sony's like, whatever. Fallout 5's not coming to 2030, right? Like, whatever. Bethesda puts out games. We don't care. Nobody cares. Nobody made any comments. But that deal happened, and I guarantee you, 100% certainty that Sony was freaking out when that deal was announced. Their Jim dance moves was dance moving all around the office, freaking out, getting people like, get everybody in this. We need people in the office now. We need to talk about this, because the possibility of losing their biggest revenue earner on PlayStation, probably no joke. And if the shoe was on the other foot and Sony announced that Activision Blizzard was bought by them, I bet you people at Xbox would be freaking out too. So
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
just how big Call of Duty is. But I also love this other sort of thing here about Call of Duty when Sony was basically on their knees with Call of Duty schlong in their throat, right, talking about how important that game is, because that's what they were. They were basically blowing Call of Duty, and this podcast just became 18 plus, by the way, if you couldn't tell.
Rip.
So sorry for any kids listening. My bad. By the way, Santa's not real, and neither is the Easter Bunny, unfortunately.
No, you've ruined my life, Rand.
I'm sorry.
GG.
Shout out to B.
We need to
Davis
make
for
it
the
up with
super
some Peppa
chat.
Pig
Appreciate
footage
it,
next
man.
week now.
Dead Planet says Sacred Symbol guys holding hope for Starfield on PS5. I mean, I don't know why they would. They made it pretty apparent that that game's not coming. So, But I thought it looked bad. I thought Starfield looked bad, and nobody liked it after they showed it. Now, of course, do they want it now?
Hang on.
Make up your mind. You know what I mean?
They still think it's coming to PlayStation?
I don't know. I mean, some people do, I think.
What?
A lot of fake insiders on the Sony side saying that game's still coming a year later or whatever. I don't know.
No,
Either way.
No, it's not.
Microsoft's like lawyers got their money's worth here out of this. What?
I know why they might be saying it's coming to PlayStation. Because this is one of the headlines that came out of this whole discussion between Xbox and PlayStation. They said they wouldn't take it off PlayStation because Call of Duty wouldn't be profitable if they took it off PlayStation. So now people are probably thinking like, oh, gotcha. That means Starfield wouldn't be profitable if it didn't come to PlayStation. But here's why that's not true. Here's why that's not true at all. And the reason it wouldn't be profitable is because Call of Duty on mobile, in Game Pass, and on cloud, that's not going to have any microtransactions because it's against Google's rules. And the Call of Duty without microtransactions probably isn't very profitable in current year, in the year of our Lord.
It's not.
So,
it definitely isn't.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so Call of Duty in the cloud is worthless, It's worthless beyond sort of like growing Game Pass, right? But it's not going to be mega profitable because Google anti-competitively blocks microtransactions through its platform, which is another kettle of fish that Microsoft has to deal with at some point. Rand, I'm really pissed off at Google because the other day I was browsing my Kindle app on Android, and it came up with a warning. Due to Google's rules, you can no longer purchase books in this app. Have to go to Amazon.com because Google have anti-competitively blocked people from being able to buy stuff through apps because they have their own bookstore on the Google Play thing. So yeah, if only Windows Phone was still around, eh? If only Windows Phone.
Nobody cares about Windows Phone, Jez. Sorry. And even I had a Windows Phone.
Well, that's just mean. But anyway, my point is that these are sort of like all these sort of constraints that Microsoft has to deal with regards to
Jez,
making these games profitable. What?
4 minutes ago, you got sloth, bro.
Oh man, I got sloth. Bro.
Speculation. Jez Corden thinks the Microsoft acquisition will happen before the end of the year. Quote, I'm going to say that it gets done by the end of the year. By December 31st. I could be wrong. End quote. You got sloth.
Well, at least he threw that I could be wrong in there.
What a prediction.
But yeah. I don't know.
Ralph Wiggum says you got sloth. I did. I just saw that, yeah. Isiler says, so there's technically a PlayStation version of Starfield out there, and Xbox paid Sony for this cancellation after the Bethesda purchase? I
think there is a PlayStation version code out there. I bet you when Starfield comes out, they will data mine the game, and they'll find strings that reference PlayStation in there.
Probably.
Unless they, listen to this podcast and decide to remove them. But that tends to happen with this kind of stuff. There's going to be speculation for years about Starfield coming to PlayStation. It's
I
going to
mean,
be fun.
we know that supposedly Sony tried getting exclusivity for it, like they did Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo.
Yeah.
So this other
It's
thing
pretty
here,
clear that Bethesda was shopping themselves around at that point.
Oh yeah, of course they were. They were down.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo, new IPs. They're probably worried they weren't going to sell very well. You know, here comes Sony with a fat check. Of course, you make that deal, and it's like, hey, can we get Starfield too? And that's where it's like, well, I don't know. I also love this thing from their whole this whole thing about how essential Call of Duty is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And basically they say Microsoft says Sony contradicts itself because they talked about the success of Game Pass, and until now there's not a single Activision Blizzard title included in Game Pass, but the service has managed to attract and engage millions of players. So since Game Pass has proved successful without making Call of Duty or an Activision Blizzard game available, logically then, such content cannot be considered essential for a game distribution channel to be competitive, which kudos to Microsoft lawyers for trying to make that argument. They're basically saying to everybody that, like, Sony's saying that Game Pass is successful, right? And it has this much of the market, but then they're also saying Call of Duty is essential for a publisher or for a digital distribution channel. So how could that possibly be? Because how could it be that Game Pass is successful when we don't have Call of Duty? So logically, it doesn't flow well. Like I think the lawyers are a little bit stretching on that one. I think it makes more sense to point out that Nintendo Switch is doing incredibly well and doesn't have Call of Duty, and that Steam hasn't had Call of Duty in a long, long time. Because those are actual platforms you can point to and are like, hey, is Call of Duty essential? Because the Nintendo Switch outsells literally everybody, and they haven't had a Call of Duty game in decades. And the number one PC marketplace is the number one marketplace, and it also doesn't have Call of Duty. So how essential is Call of Duty? And I guess Sony could make the argument that, like, well, Call of Duty is not essential to Nintendo or Steam, but it's essential to us, right? Because Nintendo's kind of insulated themselves because, it's all about first party for Nintendo. It's not really about third party for the most part. And, Steam's just, hey, we're the monolith on PC, even though we have competition. It's not really great competition. And as much as, like, I know fans like to talk about the exclusive games, like they like to mention that, hey, the reason people buy these consoles is, for the God of Wars and the Uncharteds and the Halos and all that stuff. It's not really 100% true. It might be true in the beginning when hardcore fans buy stuff, but I mean, that's not why PlayStation didn't sell 120 million PS4s because of God of War or Last of Us or any of the other stuff. Like, the Xbox One didn't sell 60 million consoles because of Halo 5 or Gears or Ori. It's Call of Duty. It's Fortnite. It's like it's everything else. Like,
Yeah.
So
it's a full package, and no single game by itself is essential. It's like the full package kind of deal, and that's sort of like, once again, it plays into Microsoft's hand, because Microsoft can be like, well, for consumers, we'll give them more choice because we'll bring Call of Duty to Nintendo Switch, which is what they've said. They want to bring Call of Duty to Switch, which gives consumers more choice. If Call of Duty is so essential as PlayStation is claiming, then, Microsoft's putting it in more places, which is helping consumers. Which is why I just think the arguments are just weak and desperate and grasping at straws, and someone's just doing their job, even though they know the arguments are not great. Because there are no real arguments against it, in my view. There never has been an argument against it. Since day one, when everyone was screaming, Monopoly, 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 there's never been an argument against it, The real monopolies are Google Play an Apple iOS, Apple literally blocks Game Pass because they don't want to compete with it. You know, that's a real monopoly.
Mm-hmm.
But, oh well, a lot of people live in this bubble where nothing else happens except for console wars, and you know, League of Legends isn't even on console, and it's massive. You know, the industry is so vibrant and so competitive that no single game is really essential. I completely agree with that. Call of Duty disappeared overnight. It's not like the gaming industry would suddenly die. And if Sony has set up its business in such a way that Call of Duty is that essential to their entire business model, they've got a problem with their business, you know. They need to diversify their revenue streams if Call of Duty by itself is that essential. And the fact of the matter is, it ain't. Because, like what you said, Nintendo Switch ain't got it. But
well, what do you think about the list points here, where it gets even juicier about Microsoft gaining an unattainable lead in subscription services, where they start off by saying that it's not part of Microsoft's strategy to remove content from players. And talk about Call of Duty remaining on PlayStation. There's still this debate, because I had this debate yesterday in one of the Discords I was in. There's like half the people think Phil and everybody's being truthful, and that they want to keep PlayStation, they want to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation going into the future. Basically, they're going to Minecraft PlayStation, or they're going to Minecraft Call of Duty. It's just going to be everywhere. Yeah. It's going to be ubiquitous, and it's not going to be exclusive. Basically, Xbox is just going to use the marketing to tie it to the brand, and then give you the choice of you can still buy it, or you can, you know, get it in Game Pass, which is what Sony is really worried about. However, there's the other half of the people that still are kind of trying to read and like trying to say, oh, well, they're being vague. They haven't really promised anything. They're only talking about current contracts. Who knows what happens after those are over? They said the same exact thing about ZeniMax, and we know how that played out. Like, there's still a lot of people that are basically saying that once this all gets done, Microsoft and Phil Spencer are going to pull the rug out from underneath everybody and being like, hey, we got you with that wording. We said desire, you know, but sorry, Call of Duty is exclusive. Even though we said we wanted to bring it to the Switch, we didn't really mean it. You know, like, are you still on that train that Phil's just a good guy and he's just gonna Minecraft COD, and COD's just gonna be everywhere forever and ever and ever. You're still on that?
Yeah,
on that train?
I don't. I'm totally on that train. Call of Duty is a ritual, baby.
Now, are you on that train because? Are you on that train because it's just the right thing to do to maybe get this deal done through regulators, or are you on that train also because of what they said later on here, where they talk about how the strategy of retaining Activision Blizzard games and not putting them in rival console stores would simply not be profitable for Microsoft? Or where they say
Activision's all about monthly active users, you know. That's how they report is monthly active users. They don't report profits and whatever. They are like Riot. And Riot just hit 180 million monthly active users. And meanwhile, Activision Blizzard dropped below 100 million users. What did I say? 180 million. Yeah. Riot was 180 million. And Activision Blizzard has dropped below 100 million. You know. So, and that's just Riot. You know, if you take into account Tencent as an entirety, it's just on another level. So, if you're Microsoft and your key performance indicator is monthly active users, the last thing you want to do is take your biggest service game off the biggest console platform. That is just reductive. It's just dumb. You know, if it was another universe where Xbox was, you know, really, really winning and PlayStation only had like 30% or less of the market share, I think maybe we could have this conversation. But no, as it stands today, not only would like they lose money on microtransactions and stuff, but we literally talked about the other week how Horizon not being on PC kind of hurt the prestige of the game and hurt the relevance of the game and the virality of the game, which is why Elden Ring just completely dominated that month because it was on PC, it was on everything. And like everyone, the conversation in our increasingly connected world hinges on access, right? So at least right now, when it comes to consumer habits and stuff, and Call of Duty being heavily associated with console gaming, I don't think Microsoft will pull it. I think Microsoft will put it on Switch to increase Call of Duty's footprint. Maybe in a distant future where like Sony's not doing so well market share or something, maybe then Microsoft twists the knife, you know. But I can't see it in the short term at all. Like the next 2 generations, I can't see that happening.
So what about what about the people that say so? Why not put Starfield on PlayStation then? Why is Call of Duty different than Starfield or any of the Bethesda games?
Starfield has no micro. Well, it probably is going to have microtransactions.
Or like Elder Scrolls 6. This is, you know, because they said Elder Scrolls 6 is exclusive. Like, why is Call of Duty being held different to a different standard than, you know, the Bethesda games?
Well, these are multiplayer games first and foremost, which you maximize on virality, and they still want to have exclusives for Game Pass. You know, they still want to have those exclusives. So it's sort of like pros and cons ultimately. I think like, yeah, they would make more money. Of course they would. If they put Starfield on PlayStation, of course they'd make more money. But they want to grow Game Pass Cloud. And I think Starfield is a good game to put on Game Pass Cloud, whereas Call of Duty isn't. Because Call of Duty relies on microtransactions, which you can't have on Google Play. And also, it's a competitive multiplayer shooter, which xCloud, frankly, still isn't good enough to run. Like, offline shooter works okay and pretty well. And there'll probably be features in Starfield, like, you know, Fallout's VATS, which kind of let you auto-aim to some degree. It's an RPG at the end of the day. So it's not a Twitch shooter. So like, I think you'll be able to play Starfield more adequately on cloud than you would Call of Duty. So there's a multitude of reasons why Call of Duty is going to be handled differently to Starfield. It comes down to microtransactions. It comes down to just wanting to have some content for Game Pass exclusively and the console platform, because that's what we as Xbox fans have asked for. Building goodwill with Xbox fans as well. But Call of Duty is a different kettle of fish. It's a business unto itself. It's an institution. Your grandma's probably heard of Call of Duty. Nobody's heard of Starfield. Literally nobody. Only people in the console bubble even know what Starfield is. You know, ask like average kid who plays Genshin Impact or Roblox if they even know what Starfield is. They don't. They don't know what Starfield is. You know, it's just for our sort of generation, and it's a single player game. Has no microtransactions, and that's why it's going to be different. So yeah, that's that one.
Well, you know, somebody say, well, if they really want to
Scrolls too.
Well, yeah. I guess we'll see how this all plays out in the future. Jez, I mean, you said day one that you thought COD would be multi-platform, but then other games would be exclusive, and you're sticking to it. So, you know,
I've been right so far.
Yeah, you have. So one of the other things that really getting a lot of pickup by the media is because Microsoft goes on to say here how basically Microsoft says there's strong upstream competition, rival game distribution channels, including console stores and subscription services that have access to a wide range of titles. In addition to Activision Blizzard games, including exclusive content not available to Xbox Microsoft customers. So they talk about the whole exclusivity thing and that how the use of exclusive arrangements has been at the heart of Sony's strategy to strengthen its presence in the gaming industry for generations. But Microsoft says that in addition to owning exclusive first-party content, Sony has also entered into agreements with third-party publishers to secure other forms of exclusivity with respect to certain games, such as marketing exclusivity or exclusivity rights with respect to downloadable content. Microsoft sees Sony's concern about the eventual exclusivity of Activision's content as incoherent and that it only reveals, quote, the fear. See, I know I said Sony was afraid, but Microsoft's actually using the word fear here. The fear regarding an innovative business model that offers high-quality content at low cost to players, threatening a leadership that was forged from a device-centric strategy and focus on exclusivity throughout the year. So they're basically throwing Sony's strategy back at him in his face. Oh, you're out there all these years getting all these exclusive deals, Street Fighter Vs, the Final Fantasy VIIs, all this other content that couldn't come out to Xbox, using your strength as market leader to get these deals on cheap when they would have been really expensive for us. And now you're whining and complaining and bitching that, you know, we're doing our thing. You know, like, you better, like, do some self-reflection, look at yourself in the mirror. But then they go on to say that Microsoft says that their ability to continue expanding Game Pass has been hampered by Sony's desire to inhibit such growth, and that Sony pays for, quote, blocking rights to prevent developers from adding content to Game Pass and other competing subscription services. So, Jez, what is this blocking rights? This was also picked up a lot over by the press. Is it your typical marketing arrangement like Hogwarts Legacy, where, you know, Warner Brothers signs up a PlayStation pays to market it, they cover the costs, but then Sony wants certain things in exchange, like, hey, we're paying for this, so we don't want your game in Game Pass for X amount of time, which I think is reasonable. I think if you're paying for marketing of a game, like, yeah, of course you don't want that game to show up in a competitor's subscription service. So is it just the marketing arrangements, or is it something a little bit more nefarious?
I think, like, a lot of this stuff came out in the Epic court case as well. Even these blocking rights and the references to Game Pass in Sony's licensing language and stuff. But I think it's just kind of to be expected almost, you know. But what disturbs me about this is the fact that Sony prefers to block rather than compete, you know. It's kind of like,
that's the core issue, isn't it?
That's the kind of thing regulators aren't going to be particularly enamored with, you know. Sony's blocking to decrease value for consumers, basically, which is not going to look very spicy for Sony and their arguments at the end of the day, because this all hinges on value for the consumer, right? And Sony's going to try and make some kind of argument about why it's bad for consumers, but the fact that it just isn't bad for consumers is tough for them. You know, the truth is going to be tough when it comes to having to argue this case. I do not envy the dude whose job it is to argue against this, because there's just no real reason against it beyond, I don't like it. Like, you know, that's the only argument against it. It makes me unhappy, it makes me sad, it makes me cry. You know, that's the only argument, you know. So it's just another one of them, you know. And I think it's just interesting that this has all been exposed, you know, in such a way that the press even picked up on it. Because I think some of this language was in the Epic court case with regards to Game Pass and stuff like that, but now it's like even more explicit. And with the Epic Games court case, we also had the whole stuff about Sony charging a tax for crossplay.
Yeah, that came out,
and and they call it something almost guilt tripping, like lost revenue fee or something like that, as if to be like, yeah, you guys are hurting us by letting consumers have fun. You know, it's like everything Sony tries to do in this situation just makes them look like the bad guy. So, and I don't think they're the bad guy. I think they're protecting their business, and I think that's completely fine in our economic system. So that's not me crying or giving a shit about how Sony runs its business, because I literally could not imagine caring any less, right? That being said, analytically speaking, it just doesn't. It's not a good look. And if I was a regulator, I'd be like, Sony, are you guys okay? Are you guys serious? So yeah, it's fun. It's fun, but at the same time, I'm tired. I'm tired,
You're
Rand.
tired
I
of
just
this?
want it to be over with. I just want it to be over with and done, and we can move on. People can get over it. Call of Duty still be on PlayStation. Destiny's still on Xbox. All that stuff. Kumbaya, crossplay together. See, that's actually one thing that I can see coming out of this, is that Microsoft might just be like, we ain't paying the crossplay fee. You have to waive that shit if you want to get Call of Duty. That's the kind of leverage I see Microsoft using out of this. Because like those crossplay fees, they are, from what I understand, bespoke. I don't think like they charge, for example, I don't think they charge a small indie dev the same what they charge like Epic Games for Fortnite crossplay, for example. But I do wonder, like, are they paying for it for Minecraft and stuff? Because like if Microsoft has Minecraft and Call of Duty, and also Epic Games has been something of an ally of Microsoft when it comes to, cracking some of this stuff open, that all three of them go together and just be like to Sony, get rid of this fee, we ain't paying it anymore. That's the kind of leverage Call of Duty creates. And
yeah, but
it's just going to be fun to see.
Would Sony call Xbox's bluff? Because Microsoft's in this thing talking about, like, may not be profitable for them to keep the games exclusive, and if they go to PlayStation, is like, get rid of the cost, the crossplay tax or whatever, and Sony's just like, no, we're not going to. What are you going to do? Pull the game from us? And Microsoft like doesn't want to, because that's where the money's made. So, in that, like, I don't know. I just think like Sony, like, we both know you're not going to remove the game from the service, so why would we give up the crossplay tax?
I think Microsoft would remove it from the service if they felt compelled to.
I guess so. I guess that would be interesting.
I think if Microsoft wanted to wield it as a weapon to influence the whole industry to better them, and crossplay, having crossplay across everything is going to benefit Xbox ultimately. We talked about this before. The reason Sony blocks it is because it's bad for PlayStation. It's bad for the market leader if you can play with your friends. It would have been bad for Xbox in the 360 gen, at least at the start, and now it's bad for Sony in current gen. So like, whereas Microsoft probably didn't want crossplay before, obviously they want it now. And I think philosophically, because the way Xbox has evolved its thinking of the gaming industry, and it's all about crossplay now. It's all about microtransactions. It's all about battle passes and services and stuff like that. It's never about the hardware anymore. It's never about the hardware when it's all in the bloody cloud and you can access it from anywhere. That's not about that anymore. So like, for Microsoft, leveraging their influence over Minecraft and Call of Duty, which are two of the biggest IPs in the universe, to crack that open for their devs and stuff, I think they'd probably do it. But I also have no idea.
Here we go.
I don't know. I could be wrong.
Love it. Love it.
Love it. You love it?
Yeah.
You love that?
I love how you can have this nice analytical
evasiveness
talk, and at the end just completely destroy exactly what you're talking about by saying you just don't know. I like it. I like it a lot.
Look, man. I grew up on the BBC, all right? BBC is always on the fence, so that's just my habits, baby. That's the British in me. Stay on the fence. Don't offend anyone. That's all I got.
Darren in the super chat says, "My guess is that Microsoft will use COD to strong arm Sony to stop anti-competition practices like pay for crossplay and anti-Game Pass third-party contracts." Definitely possible, like Jez was saying.
It could also because ultimately it's Apple and Google that are hurting growth in the cloud for both Sony and Microsoft, frankly. Like, if Sony is actually serious about having a cloud business, they need to crack open the nut that is the closed mobile ecosystems, and Google's dominance and in non-American markets and Apple's dominance in American markets is really going to hurt that whole entire business proposition. So I think that's probably where, that's another thing that potentially Call of Duty can help sort of begin to leverage against, if more and more games move out of the Apple store and into the browser, and user habits change and stuff like that. And this is very, very wishful thinking, by the way. I'm totally aware of that. Well, that's ultimately the holy grail. They don't really worry that much about what Sony's doing, because ultimately it's Apple and Google that are really hurting the future of the gaming business. They're cut, and their cut over free-to-play games on mobile is extortionate. And the way they treat some of their third-party services like Spotify and Netflix and stuff is really bad, especially when Apple has its own streaming service now. Super anti-competitive, and I have no idea why regulators haven't looked into that more. But it is what it is. And, there's going to be a lot of antitrust, things happening in the future that make this whole Activision thing seem like small fry,
Well, Sony also
it's
better be careful too, because they might want to buy Square Enix in the future, right? Although
Yeah.
I guess Microsoft isn't going to cry to regulators about Final Fantasy being essential or whatever, or any of that other stuff, or because I always think about if the shoe was on the other foot. If PlayStation was buying Activision Blizzard, or let's even say if PlayStation was buying Take-Two and Grand Theft Auto was up in the thing, would we be having this? Would Microsoft be in arguing that the deal should be blocked because Sony's already too big? They're already the number one. This would put them further ahead. Because you couldn't make the subscription service argument because Sony really doesn't, until recently really have had one. Because I think people conflate PlayStation Plus and Game Pass. PlayStation Plus is Xbox Live Gold. PlayStation Extra is Game Pass. And they like to use the two PlayStation Plus has more users or more subscribers than Game Pass. But it's it doesn't though. Because PlayStation Plus, the bottom tier, is just Xbox Live Gold. And we don't know how many users Xbox Live Gold has. We only know about Game Pass, which is 25 million, which is the middle tier for PlayStation Plus. It used to be PlayStation Now, and nobody had PlayStation Now. I think it had 3 million users. It was a complete and utter abysmal failure. Remember, because they bought... Did they buy OnLive or they buy Gaikai? Well, which one was that?
Gaikai.
I forget. Yeah, right. So
Razer bought OnLive, I think, which is really random.
So the people that kind of say PlayStation Plus is more they don't we don't know how many people are subscribed to Extra. That's Extra and Premium is basically versus Game Pass and Ultimate. PlayStation Plus is just Xbox Live Gold, but I wonder what Microsoft's arguments would be. And could Sony afford to make Call of Duty exclusive? Would they want to? Or would they do it exactly like what they're doing with Bungie, where Destiny's gonna be everywhere and whatever else Bungie does? Like, it's just too much money to give up in that scenario. I wonder how that would play out. But
it's the Halo effect too that they want to preserve. You know, if your game is on everything and everywhere, everyone everywhere gets FOMO, and everyone wants to play it. You know, which is one of the reasons why they want to get these games onto mobile and make them more accessible. Is because like if everyone's playing them, you know, everyone else sort of tries to share it, and you know, like, oh my god, play this game. Like we talked about Terror Fantasy earlier. Like you haven't heard of it right now, but I really do feel like it's going to be one of them sort of Genshin kind of games with the footprint and the gacha mechanics. It literally is identical to Genshin Impact. Like the combat and everything is just the same. But it's just got sci-fi. So like anyone who didn't play Genshin just because they don't like medieval stuff and they prefer sci-fi, now there's a Genshin for you. It's called Terror Fantasy. But if you restrict your game to a single platform, you're potentially decreasing that, you know, footprint and that virality. And you need to like look towards other things to enhance that. And obviously there are exceptions to this rule, you know. League of Legends being one, which is just this massive behemoth of a game on PC, and it's never come to console. Never needed console, and it didn't even need mobile. You know, it's just free to play, but it has that sort of legacy of being one of the first, you know, free to play kind of games on the PC in that vein. So it has that kind of long tail legacy, which obviously changes things a lot. But I don't know. It's just kind of like the industry is evolving and changing at such a rapid speed, and that's why like these kind of growing pains and these kind of arguments and these kind of court cases, they're gonna happen. There's gonna be more of them too, you know. So whether or not it ends up being something that causes Xbox to get blocked or get this deal blocked, I highly doubt it. But, you know, this isn't the end of the story either way, I think.
yeah.
It's very, very interesting.
Nanopolymyth, what's going on, buddy? He says, long-time listener, first-time caller. Nobody has the American energy of where Candy Crush will end up. Believe MA willing to share COD, or Microsoft willing to share COD while retaining other IPs for console, cloud, and mobile. Ooh. Now, nobody talks about Candy Crush and King because nobody cares about mobile games. Am I right, Jez? I mean, that's essentially it.
Yeah, but Candy Crush is absolutely monstrously huge.
Do you actually think
Candy Crush is shocking?
Let me ask you this question.
Shocking how big that game is.
And I want a definitive answer because obviously it's prediction, so you know you could be wrong. Do you actually think in your heart of hearts that Xbox will somehow integrate Candy Crush and World of Warcraft into Game Pass somehow? I'm not talking about I'm not talking about perks. Like I'm not talking about the perks they run. I'm like talking specifically, not perks, because I don't think they do perks very well. And usually the perks they do for a lot of this stuff, if you see, are kind of bad or not useful.
Right.
I'm talking like within the subscription itself. Like you subscribe to Game Pass,
what would you do for
get
Candy Crush?
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, a lot of people I think make assumptions about certain things.
All right. Well, I'm going to tell you definitively right now.
Definitively, yes.
This isn't even I could be wrong. This is definitively World of Warcraft will not be in Game Pass. They will not integrate World of Warcraft into the Game Pass subscription, in my opinion.
Okay.
Maybe when Warcraft's like basically dead, when it's only got like a few 100,000 players left, maybe they do it then because it's not worth, you know, even operating separately at that point. But as long as World of Warcraft still has millions of subscribers, and it does still have a few million subscribers, it will never be part of Game Pass because I don't think the audiences overlap, for one thing, that well. And why have one subscription when you can have two, you know? If like I'm literally paying for Game Pass and World of Warcraft separately right now, and so is anyone else who's playing World of Warcraft, like why take that away? I don't think that helps Warcraft grow, and it sort of I don't think they'll do that because I don't know, why would they? I think what's more likely to happen is they change Warcraft's philosophy and maybe make the free to play aspect of it more generous. Because right now you can play Warcraft free to play up to level 20, but it's literally pointless. There's you don't get anything as a result of that. So I think that could change the philosophy and make it more free to play. And maybe I do think that I know you said not perks, but I do think there will be perks for World of Warcraft in the subscription somehow. Because Phil has said he wants to grow World of Warcraft, and one way you help World of Warcraft grow is to sort of, get it to more places. I do think they will somehow get Warcraft into cloud, but I think it'll be on a separate subscription. I think the subscription is always going to be separate, basically.
All right.
But
it's good to know. All right, just wondered. LeBurn says Sony failed to invest in first-party multiplayer titles during the PS4, instead choosing money hats to fill the gaps. This is not a long-term strategy. See the 360 Xbox One. Face says Sony, the evil company. Both companies are only out for the business, and for people who think this deal is going to finish this year, is in for a rude awakening, to be honest. I hope Microsoft makes Call of Duty exclusive. Man, Face said you're in for a rude awakening, Jez.
Well, I'd have to care more for it to be a rude awakening. But I just want World of Warcraft by the end of the year.
Nobody's saying... I don't think anybody's saying Sony's evil company. And I think both me and Jez said that they're just protecting their business interests. But I do think Sony's a bit worried about Game Pass gaining traction, because I don't think Sony wants to compete with Microsoft in that manner. I don't think Sony...
Well, it's kind of like look at Xbox Live Gold. It took Sony years to catch up to it took them a whole generation to catch up to Microsoft on Xbox Live Gold, and that put Microsoft ahead so far in so many ways. And so Sony was playing catch up for a long time, and I think Sony now they're seeing it happen again, where they're on the back foot with regards to what could be a very, very lucrative business down the line. But at the same time, does Sony have the cash flow to essentially lose money for the first however many years? Because that's how streaming services operate. You operate at cost at least, or at most rather, to begin with. You're not in it to profit to start with. You're in it to reinvest everything you make in growth. And this week, Disney Plus overtook Netflix in paid subscribers. I don't know if you saw this, Rand.
Well, they did when you combine all of Disney Plus and Hulu and ESPN Plus. Yes, they have more total combined, but Disney Plus by itself is still 70 million short of Netflix.
Yeah, but they got more paying subscribers is the point within their umbrella or whatever. But they also said to shareholders that they literally plan to lose money on Disney Plus until 2024, I think they said. So basically everything they're doing right now, they acknowledge is all about growing the service and overtaking Netflix and investing as much as they can in changing user behavior around getting people into their subscription. And Xbox Game Pass is probably in a similar way. I don't think Game Pass is operating at loss necessarily, because I think if they were plowing loads of infinite money into it, then we'd see even more big AAA games dropping in the service. I think Microsoft's being a lot more conservative and careful with how they grow it. But they're definitely not making a huge profit on it right now, and that's because they're trying to grow it. But can Sony be in that situation too, where they can afford to invest in that kind of push that they need to do to grow a new business? And clearly they can, because they're doing it with VR. But increasingly, it looks like Sony made the wrong bloody bet. God knows how much they've invested in VR, and that shit's never going to turn a profit. It's VR is going to end up being Sony's Connect, I think, to be quite honest with you.
Ooh.
And I know there's people who are not going to want to hear that, but it's true. You know, it's going to end up being their Connect. And they're going to regret it. They're going to regret not investing more in cloud. They're going to regret not investing more in service games, and then they're going to regret not investing more in a Game Pass competitor as soon as Microsoft came out the gate running with this, because they're going to be playing catch up. And a lot of their arguments about Call of Duty and a lot of their policies on licensing and stuff like that, it's all designed to slow down Game Pass's growth so they can maybe potentially try and catch up later on. But it is what it is, right? It's ultimately all business stuff, and these companies, you know, just protecting their interests and their shareholders at the end of the day. But it's, as consumer, I just want to see, you know, I want to see as much as possible in Game Pass, because as for me as a consumer, that's better. It's cheaper. I spend less money. And with the state of the global economy right now, there's going to be a lot of parents out there, especially in Britain, where, you know, energy prices are just completely running away in Britain. Like people are looking at like $500 a month energy bills in Britain right now, which is absolutely unprecedented. A lot of parents are going to be looking at, you know, what budgets to cut, and, you know, obviously buying games at $70 a pop on PlayStation looks a whole lot less attractive than just getting Game Pass, you know. And Xbox is out ahead of that possibility by offering unprecedented value, you know, in unprecedented time. So that's my benefit as a consumer, and that's ultimately where my personal interest ends. But
Supernova in the super chat says, "What's up, lads? Why is Obsidian has more teams working in different projects? Isn't it better that they are polishing Avowed to make the product the same as Cyberpunk 77 in terms of scale and density?" Jez?
they don't want to.
I mean, that's
They don't want to. They're artists that want to work on different projects, and they have a lot of autonomy, you know. And they wanted to make Grounded. They wanted to make Pentiment at the end of the day, you know. And I think that's completely fine.
Yep, I 100% agree with Jez said there. Paul says, if the Activision deal closes within the next few months, what are the chances Xbox is also looking into acquiring Square Enix? I mean, I'm sure Xbox would love to have Square Enix, but I just don't see that very likely. I think if
the culture sort of isn't there, I think.
Yeah. I wonder how long Microsoft will wait to acquire somebody else after Activision goes through. Will they wait a while, or will they be like, all right, well, we got this done, let's get this happening? So yeah, that's what I'm interested in. So Xbox is at Gamescom this year, Jez, and you will be at Gamescom, correct?
Yes, I will. I am going to Gamescom in 2 weeks.
Are you
on Tuesday.
looking forward to getting COVID?
Oh man, that's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna buy some masks, I think, for that shit. Not that they'll do anything, probably, but
So
I ain't had a vaccine for over a year, so if I'm gonna get COVID, it's probably gonna be at Gamescom.
So Xbox announced their plans for Gamescom, and they got a booth. So anybody at the show, they have 36 stations featuring content coming to Xbox in the next 12 months. And you can go hands-on with Pentiment, Age of Empires 4, Microsoft Flight Sim, Sea of Thieves, and Grounded. Jesus, 4 old games. Like Age of Empires 4 last year, Microsoft Flight Sim last year, Sea of Thieves 4 years old at this point, but still chugging along. Very, very popular. They just put out their new season, right, with the captaincy stuff, and Grounded, which is finally going into 1.0. Pentiment's brand new.
Yes.
Also, Plague Tale Requiem will be there. Disney Dreamlight, Last Case of Benedict Fox, Lies of P, which is like a Bloodborne Souls looking game. Looks kind of cool. Planet of Lana, which I believe got delayed to 2023, unfortunately, like every other game seems to be. You can get hands-on impressions with the Xbox app on the Samsung 2022 smart TVs to use xCloud. And so that's for people at the show. And then they also have a live stream from the booth on Thursday, August 25th at, what time is this? 5 a.m. Is this 5 a.m. Pacific to 11 a.m. Pacific? So 8 a.m. Eastern to 2 p.m. Eastern. It's like a 6-hour show featuring interviews and gameplay from Xbox studios like Mojang, Obsidian, and World's Edge, plus Xbox Game Studios Publishing and their partners at Asobo. You can expect to see Flight Sim, Gunfire Reborn, Sea of Thieves, Lives of P, High on Life. I'm actually looking forward to seeing High on Life or playing High on Life. Grounded, Pentiment, A Plague Tale. Cannot wait for Plague Tale. Minecraft Legends, Planet of Lana, and Age of Empires 4. There's also FanFest. They got a FanFest event going on there. And that's it. So, you think Xbox going to make any announcements, Jez? Because, as we saw on social media this week, somebody got their hands on a white Xbox Series or Xbox Elite Series 2. So is this the new Elite that you were talking about on last week's show potentially? Because this be what it is? It'd be announced at Gamescom?
I honestly have no idea. I don't know if it is the Elite that I heard about. My information about an upcoming Elite for the holiday season is so vague that it could be the white variant. It could be something else. I heard it wasn't the Elite 3 necessarily. But yeah, I honestly just don't have that information right now. It's very possible. But also, I heard that video that leaked was actually quite old. So it's really weird, actually. Like, if it's literally ready to go, why haven't they released it? It's weird. You know, it is a bit weird. But anyway, as for Gamescom announcements, I think they've been pretty upfront not to expect too much. They said they're going to offer updates about things that we heard about. So maybe they'll sort of talk about there'll probably be new trailers for some things like High on Life and stuff like that. I don't think they pretty much said they're not going to announce any new games. Maybe I don't know. Maybe there'll be some small unexpected thing like, Contraband, where the hell is that, you know? But I think they're sticking to this 12-month rule right now. So maybe there'll be more Starfield stuff and that kind of thing. But
I don't think there's going to be any Starfield. Starfield's not even at QuakeCon. If Starfield was going to be anywhere, it'd be at QuakeCon. It's not even there.
Yeah, I guess. I don't think it's going to be a big event, but I'm going to try and do some cool previews and speak to some devs, and hopefully I'll get some news out of it. Like, I really want to try out that Lightyear Frontier that Xbox showed off at their show. The colony builder, your favorite genre, Rand.
Yeah, woohoo.
Yeah. Is there any game you want me to check out at Gamescom?
That High on Life game.
I'll ask that to chat as well. High on Life.
Yeah.
I'll check that out.
I think that game looks super cool. What game do you want Jez to check out? CMAD says, playing devil's advocate, could either of you come up with a compelling reason why the Microsoft ABK deal hurts the consumer? In the end, that's the question at hand. Sony's response to that would be that it might lower quality of games, which I think is a poor... I think quality of games is a subjective thing, first off, because one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? So Sony's arguing that the quality of games would go down, but there is a way to quantify it. You can look at, you know, Metacritic or an
Yeah.
OpenCritic, and it looks like Xbox's games are actually getting higher rated, not lower rated. So I honestly don't think, I can't come up with a compelling reason why the deal hurts the consumer. I guess like hold on. I guess you could make an argument that Microsoft is trying to get all this content and then would boost up the price of Game Pass, forcing the consumer to pay more. Like, oh, we got Call of Duty now, and Game Pass is now, instead of $10 a month, now it's $20 a month. Right? Where they do something like that, but I think that's a little bit unrealistic. So I really can't come up with a reason why it would hurt the consumer. And that's why I think
they've barely touched the price of Xbox Live Gold in a million years.
They tried to. I still remember that day. Remember when they tried to do that? We were all like, "What are you doing, Xbox?" And nobody at Xbox tweeted the entire day. They were just like disappeared.
Yeah.
And then like they were like, "We screwed up, guys." It's like, if nobody had said anything, you would have just pushed this through, wouldn't you have? You know, just like Halo Infinite when they showed it off in 2020 and you saw Craig. It was like, you thought this looked good, where it's like, this could come out this year, until everybody was like, yo, what is that? And they're like, oh yeah, well maybe it shouldn't delay it for a year. When in reality, Halo Infinite probably should have been delayed another year, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah. So let's see. People want you to check out Plague's Tale, the Benedict's Fox game. Ghost says that I want you to check out that one because that looks cool. Yeah,
I'll check those out.
Yeah, those. I don't know what else is there. So, Goldchill says, ever thought of doing an Xbox 2 fan meet and greet? Well, that would also imply that me and Jez actually meet up together at some point, and then that would have to be like an E3 sort of thing. Maybe. I mean, that could potentially happen in the future. Jez comes to Chicago. We rent out the Palermo's restaurant, and he's like, hey, Chicago Xbox 2 fans, come over to Palermo's to have some pizza with Jez and Rand. How about that?
That'd be so cool. Do they do that deep dish stuff? I really want to try that.
I mean, yeah, they have deep. I hate the deep dish though.
I know you hate it, but I just never had it because like nowhere does it in Europe that I could find.
Yeah, well, it's a Chicago thing, so. What else we got here? So, Jez, what happened? What happened with this Grand Theft Auto, Elden Ring, cloud gaming, Game Pass stuff?
Yeah, I think so. For those who don't know and those who are listening, who might be unaware, because we should recap the news when we're talking about it.
Well, yeah, could this be a Gamescom announcement where they announced this? Because could that be something?
No.
Or is this more of a bug kind of thing?
I think it's just a bug.
But go ahead,
recap it. So basically what happened was some people noticed a couple of days ago that if you went on Xbox.com and the store, some games like Elden Ring and some games that aren't in Game Pass were showing up like, I can't remember exactly how they were showing up, but the website kind of implied that you could buy them and then play them in the cloud, even if you didn't have Game Pass and stuff, or like even if they weren't in Game Pass, rather, I should say. So basically, it was kind of like this seemed like they were gearing up to get ready to start putting all games and make them cloud capable, even if they're not in Game Pass. You just need to own them. Similarly to how Stadia works, because on Stadia, you buy the games outright and then stream them. But I think this was a website bug or something like that. Maybe they are updating the website to support the functionality down the line. Because let's remember, Microsoft has officially stated that this is coming. They have officially stated that you will be able to buy games that aren't in Game Pass and then play them via the cloud on your phone or a tablet or a PC. So they've said this is coming. It's definitely coming. Was this a bug? Maybe. Could it be in a modification that means something more? Maybe as well. But right now, we just need to wait a little longer. So that was that bit of news.
When do you
You're
think that
not
happens?
down with the cloud. Yeah, I have no idea when it happens. I think because I wrote this in my January what to expect from 2022 Xbox article from January, and I wrote that Microsoft was working on bringing this to the fore. And I think back in January, I heard the plan was for it to roll out by the end of 2022. But plans could change, COVID, pandemic, blah blah blah, and all that kind of stuff. So we just have to wait and see. And we got Snowbike Mike in the chat, and he said he'd fly out for pizza. We also have Tom Warren in the chat.
No way.
Is that the Tom Warren?
There's no way that's the Tom Warren. Come on now.
That's the Tom Warren, baby.
But Snowbike Mike, the host of Kind of Funny XCast, said he'd fly out for an Xbox 2 meet and greet and pizza.
Hell yeah. We should do it, man. You know, I saw something really depressing in social media recently. There was some girl with like 5 million followers on TikTok, and she set up like a meet and greet in LA.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Nobody showed up, right?
And nobody showed up.
Yeah.
Because 5 million followers on TikTok doesn't mean anything.
Dude, that would be my fear. Like, I'm gonna do this and nobody shows up. Imagine how how depressed you would be.
Really sad. Yeah.
I guess that is.
I think as long as
like
a couple of people showed up. Hey, you should moderate him. As long as a couple of people showed up, I'd be down with that.
Well, I believe
Tom Warren rocking out with us. Man, it's pretty late in the UK. It's Tom, you're not sleepy, buddy. Grutus, 11:30.
Grutus
I'm
says
sleepy now. It's midnight.
Here in Australia, a telco had a deal whereby you get a free Series S with 2-year Game Pass if you bought a Samsung S 2022 Xbox Marketing and Overdrive. That's a pretty good deal.
That's
Series
a
S,
good deal.
2 years of Game Pass and a new TV.
Did you see?
LeBurn says Jez and Rand meet and greet sponsored by Manscaped.
I don't suppose you watched Samsung Unpacked this week, Rand.
Samsung on what?
Samsung Unpacked. They announced the new Fold. No?
Is that a phone or
you
something?
Didn't watch it? Yeah, the Galaxy Fold, the one that folds.
You know I don't care about cell phones, Jez. There's one thing I could care less about. I couldn't care less about. It's cell phones. Like your whole Windows Phone thing, iPhones, Samsungs, Androids. I just don't care about any of that stuff. I have an iPhone right now, and I just whatever. Like maybe my next phone will be a Samsung. You know, I just don't care about. I just don't care about mobile phones. I barely use them for anything. I just don't care.
Well, screw you.
Yeah.
The new Galaxy Watch, right, runs Android, and technically you can play xCloud on the watch if you really wanted to. Would you play a game on a watch?
No,
right?
I have no interest in playing a game on a watch.
You want to play Starfield on your watch? You know, no?
Nope.
You don't want to play Starfield on your Samsung smart fridge?
Not at all. Pushing Polygons wants to know, what do you care less about, old games or mobile phones? Now, that is a question. What do I care less about, old games or mobile phones? Well, I would say I care less about old games because at least mobile phone gives me utility. Old games gives me nothing besides oldness and stuff I've already played. So I guess I would care more about mobile phone in that regard. Flame says I'd fly out to Uwu with Jez Chan, and Rand Senpai. Okay. You know what? Why don't you guys hit us up with some questions in the chat? I think we've come to the end of the show because we started a little bit later. And there wasn't really much to talk about outside of this whole Xbox, PlayStation, fighting it out in the courts stuff anyways. And Gamescom, which I don't really think is going to be much to do there either. So thank you guys for being here. Hit the like button. Appreciate everyone. And let's get some questions, Jez. We got let's see.
Oh, before we rock off some
Mm-hmm.
questions, I just want to say that we are giving away a code for Cult of the Lamb on
Oh,
Windows WC Gaming Tweets. So
really?
if you don't have the Cult of the Lamb,
Why not?
yeah.
Why not Xbox Two
What?
Podcast Twitter account? Huh?
Because technically this code came through work.
No,
So
they don't know what they don't know. They can't hurt them, Jez.
yeah, I did think about it, but I thought that's
Dude,
unethical
I was
because the code
shocked when you were
technically.
like, "Hey, I made an Xbox Twitter account." I was like, "Xbox Two Twitter account." I was like, "Excuse me?" And then Jez asked
Dude,
me
I made that years ago.
if I wanted access to it. I'm like, Jez, I don't even tweet on my own account. Like, I was like, "You're the one. You're the one that tweets 100 times a day. You might as well tweet from the Xbox Two account."
I did make the Xbox 2 podcast Twitter account when we started the podcast, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I made that because I was like, damn, we might need this someday. So I just thought I'd fire it up when to let people know and stuff. So yeah, we got some questions in the chat. Jez, what are sales of Xbox Series like in Germany? Honestly, I have no idea. I don't know if there's any websites that track retail sales of the Xbox in Germany. I know that PlayStation is more dominant in Germany. It's just the way it is in mainland Europe. But I have started seeing Xbox currency cards in stores now that weren't there before, especially during the Xbox One generation. So yeah, it's things are getting better.
Let's see. Leonardo wants to know, with Sony owning Evo, does that mean that Microsoft exclusive fighters like Killer Instinct will be a no-show? Well, that's assuming, sir, that a Killer Instinct 2 ever gets made, which is who knows at this point. Because I believe Smash, I believe Nintendo pulled out, right? There was no Smash at Evo.
Was there not?
I don't think there was. I could be wrong.
Oh, wow.
But I don't think there was Smash because I think Nintendo pulled out. I would imagine if there was a Killer Instinct 2, I think Microsoft would let Killer Instinct 2 be there.
Yeah, they would.
I think they would. Although I don't know if you saw it, but like Sony was quick to brand PlayStation all over the Evo thing. Smart marketing. Xbox should do some of that stuff more. I did not
see that.
Ulfric.
Well, so Microsoft bought that Smash.gg thing, and then, as far as I know, they haven't really done anything with it.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything. Ulfric wants to know, would you want to see a horror game set in the Gears universe? Yes, please. I'm sure Jez would.
Yeah, Paris tweeted that out, I think.
Yes, he did.
Paris of Gamertag Radio, he tweeted that out, that he'd like to see a horror game set in the Gears universe. Yeah, I would love that, you know. And they did the tactics thing. I really want Gears Tactics 2 so badly, but I'm probably never going to get it. So a horror game set in the Gears universe would be pretty cool.
I think that would be cool. I would even want like a Halo horror game too. You know, like
with the flood. Yeah, people have been saying that for ages.
Yeah, but we won't get it.
That'd be cool.
Leonardo wants to know, why do the podcast if Rand has no spicy takes on Samsung phones? I'm just keeping it, even. Like, Jez has no spicy takes about any of this stuff, so why would I have spicy takes about Samsung phones? It's a tit for tat. Tit for tat, I come on, everybody.
You've got spicy takes about Peppa.
Everybody loves when you have a spicy take about something. Like, nobody likes it when you're just like, whatever, who cares? I could be wrong, maybe not. Later, guys.
Yeah, I can't fake it, man. I got to feel passionate about this stuff.
No, I feel it on that one. Let's see what else we got here. Zach wants to know, so completely random, but apparently Microsoft owns Hydro Thunder IP. I'd love to see that one get revived. That'd be cool to come back.
I did not know that.
I did like Hydro Thunder on the 360. Let's see, more questions. Face wants to know, what's the chance that Callisto Protocol gets delayed since everything else is? I mean, it's one step away from January in 2023 as is, right? So it's a new IP. You know, there's still some time left where something in production doesn't go right. Maybe they're like, shit, you know, it gets delayed to next year. I wouldn't be shocked if it got delayed. At this point in time, I wouldn't be shocked if anything got delayed. Like, I think the only game, like, safe coming out is Saints Row because it's 2 weeks away. But, you know.
Yeah, Saints Row is safe. I can guarantee that.
Yeah. John wants to know, Phil Spencer visited Rare headquarters this week with him watching gameplay for something. Do you think we could be getting an Everwild announcement soon? Jez, what do you think?
We've been waiting long enough. You know, I think we're gonna get some Xbox game announcements at the Keeleys later this year. So yeah, I think we could be coming up to a point where Everwild's been sufficiently repositioned for a re-reveal. But who knows? Who knows?
He was probably just
I'm
playing
gutted,
Sea of
Rand,
Thieves.
because I wanted to go hang out with Phil, but I couldn't because I was in Germany. Rip.
Yeah, you went back to Germany at the wrong time. Otherwise, you would have been in the UK and could have went over to Rare.
Could have been like, hey Phil, let's hang out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tyson wants to say, will Jez make a community guild in World of Warcraft for Dragonflight?
Probably not a guild, but there's that new Battle.net community system. That group community thing. Maybe. Oh, is that what you meant? I suppose that's what you meant from community guild. Yeah, maybe if enough people play. But I play on the European servers, so unless you play in the EU, I don't think we can connect up. But yeah, something I could look at. You know, if you are interested in that kind of stuff, I'm going to drop the Discord in the chat, and I'll put this in the description on the audio version as well. If you want to join the Xbox 2 Discord, because we do have a Discord, head over here, and if enough people are playing WoW, then yeah, we can make an Xbox 2 community.
Let's see. Isildur's Bane says, Jezran, do you think we will see anything games from these 200 Japanese devs Microsoft is working with at TGS? Maybe a couple. I don't think any of them will be exclusive. I think it's just kind of like I need Xbox Japan in a way, where they're just trying to get more Japanese games to come to the platform. So maybe you see a couple of them.
I know that Microsoft is sending they are sending a pretty big delegation to TGS, shall we say. So it's just indicative that Microsoft is really doubling down on trying to grow their presence in Japan. But this is the year of recession and nastiness, so it could also be that, you know, they rein in some of those plans, but we'll have to wait and see.
Brad wants to know if I'm going to Gamescom. No, Brad, I am not flying to Europe to go to Gamescom. Unfortunately. I don't know. Even if invited, I don't know if I would go. I don't know. I'm not really interested in waiting in lines to play games, to be honest. I did that at E3 2016, and it was the worst part of the whole thing. Best part is, like, chilling with friends, having a good time, you know? And not waiting in line for stuff, so,
Dude, you know, the first year I went to Gamescom, I queued for like 7 hours to play Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. And I was like waiting in line in this booth that looked like what's it called? Out of Heaven, you know, the oil rig. And there was like a floating sheep toy in the air. And I waited there for like 6 to 7 hours, and I played for like 10 minutes because you only got 10 minutes to play, and there was a huge queue, like dozens of people, and that was my first Gamescom. I will never do that again as long as I live. Oh man.
Javier says NBA 2K23 pre-order has the NBA League Pass for 1 year added. What are your thoughts? I mean, I guess it's a good way to get people to try to pay for a really expensive tier of the game, $150. And if you're really like a big NBA fan, or you're an NBA fan that likes 2K but has never really tried out League Pass, I mean, this could maybe get people to kind of go over the edge to try it out. It's interesting. It's an interesting like cross promotion thing, I think. Sean, let's see here. I just went away here. Why hasn't Microsoft made a new Rise game? Well, Rise is owned by Crytek, the IP, and it probably just boils down to they couldn't come to an agreement on a sequel. And that's why there isn't a new one, right? I mean, not saying there couldn't be a new one in the future or a new one that's multi-plat, but a new one with Microsoft. I just don't think they could come to arrangements together. It's just, I remember hearing the rumors that like there was a Rise 2 in development, and it just like didn't really go anywhere. So
I could probably find out about that. I'll dig into that.
Odin the Allfather says, y'all predict more acquisitions in 2023? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think the acquisitions start up again in 2023.
Oh, yes, they will. Oh, yes. Solid Man's PlayStation Studios Talk Show Year 2022. That's a long, long name. He says, the war of Xbox and PlayStation is really getting old. They both play the same games. I mean, yeah, it is. But it's the console war, man. People have been doing it since the Sega Genesis and Nintendo days. So now it's even, now they're fighting in the courts. Sony's just like, we don't want extra competition. And Microsoft's like, Sony, you're being illogical. It's fun stuff. I like to see it. To me, it's super interesting. To Jez, what's interesting is flip phones and stupid watches and whatnot. So that's what Jez finds interesting.
Hey. I like World of Warcraft too. That's
and World of Warcraft. Justin wants to know if Bandai Namco...
We need to get Mike Ibarra back on the show, man. Me and Mike just talk about World of Warcraft for an hour while you listen. That'd be cool.
Justin wants to know if Bandai Namco's still working on a new Killer Instinct. That was your rumor, Jez, wasn't it?
I remember like that was the vaguest, most flimsy rumor I've ever had. So I think when I did originally talk about Bandai Namco potentially being involved in Killer Instinct, I put like a shovel load of salt behind that. I never wrote that up anywhere because I didn't have good information on it. So was it ever actually a thing? I don't know. Probably not. All we know right now with regards to Killer Instinct is that Microsoft aspires to bring it back, and we can only hope. But I think, kind of like, to be honest, I do wonder, can a fighting game work as a console exclusive these days that isn't Smash Brothers? I don't think it can. I think, like, if Killer Instinct is gonna work, it needs to be on PlayStation and it needs to be on Nintendo Switch too.
Ooh, that's
I mean, how would you feel about that? That's a spicy take. I think if they do Killer Instinct 2, it needs to be on every console. Personally, that's what I think.
You see, but then you get into arguments about like, well, why isn't Halo Infinite on Nintendo Switch and PlayStation? Like, you know what I mean?
Because it's Halo, it's a shooter. You know, I feel like shooter has a lot more pull, whereas like with regards to the niche that is the fighting game scene, you need to go where people are. And honestly, a lot of hardcore fighting game players are just not on Xbox because the platform often just gets neglected.
PC not a big platform for fighting games?
I mean, yeah, it is a pretty big platform, but I think it should be on. Yeah, people don't like that take.
I mean,
yeah, I would be like, yeah.
Are you surprised?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't care, man. Stick it on PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, because that's how that game gets popular. You know. But will that happen? Probably not.
I mean, you're not the only one who's actually said that to me. Everborn Saga said if they ever make a Killer Instinct 2, it should be everywhere. which
Yeah.
maybe it should be, but Xbox's
Stick it
whole
on Xbox. Stick it on mobile as well. Screw it.
Xbox's whole motorist, or I was going to say, what term was I going to use, but their whole thing now is growing Game Pass, and Call of Duty or Killer Instinct coming back and being everywhere. Does that really grow Game Pass? Probably not in that way, but
What if with Game Pass you got access to every character on PlayStation and Nintendo? Similar to the Riot deal.
I mean, I just want Killer Instinct to come back. If the only way it comes back is that it's multi-platform, whatever, I'm fine with it. You know?
Yeah.
Kind of like the way like Skate's coming back and it's coming back free to play. I sort of feel like that's the only way Skate is coming back in this day and age by EA. You know? Where it's like, yeah, we can bring back Skate because of this new business model. Otherwise, we would never do Skate again. So, yeah, maybe you're right. Sonic Cheese says, I don't really have a question. Just want to say keep up the good content. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Andrew wants a Peppa Pig horror game. Oh, jeez.
Peppa Pig horror game would be sick. Like Five Nights at Freddy's, maybe.
Yeah.
And Peppa's all like a mutant or something. Like you go to Peppa's house for like a tea party or something, but like the tea is blood. And then Peppa's got like a meat cleaver or something. Game writes itself.
Josh Swass wants to know if Elden Ring is coming to Game Pass, or was that an error? Pretty sure that was an error. Don't think it's coming. I mean, not to say it won't come to Game Pass in the future, but I think that whole thing where it was like, oh, it's coming to Game Pass, I think that was an error. Been a lot of those lately because there was a whole Madden thing earlier in the year and stuff. So, but you know what? I think I'm kind of getting pretty tired because we've been going over 3 hours. So this is where we end the show. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate you. We'll be back next week. What was that? August 19th. And Jez will have this up ASAP, probably tomorrow on the streaming platforms or the podcast apps. Which, if you're listening on Spotify and iTunes, you can do us a favor. Make sure you leave a little review, whether it's 5-star or 1-star. Everything helps out. And yeah, until then, hope everybody has a great weekend. And if you guys are playing Cult of the Lamb and you put me in your cult, tag me on Twitter. I want to see it. I want to see what you make me. You know, what cute little animals. Because Jez said he has me in the game, but he hasn't even taken a screenshot of it, so I don't even know if he's telling the truth.
I have, but I can't get it on my PC because there's no way to get Xbox screenshots on PC as far as I'm aware, which is really annoying. So tag me in the photos of me and your cult, and have a great rest of the weekend, and we'll see you next week. And yeah, keep it gaming, guys. Later. Take care, everybody. Woo.